Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 at 5:52 p.m. Thank you for waiting while we finished our work session, which extended a little bit longer. And we're calling this regular meeting of the Wake County Board of Education to order. I want to welcome those of you that are watching at home and those that are here in person to observe as the Board of Education conducts its official business. And I'd like to take a moment to highlight Board Policy 2310, which states persons who willfully interrupt, disrupt, or cause disturbances at an official meeting may be directed to leave by the presiding officer. Members of the audience should show respect for speakers by refraining from loud comments or other disruptions. Disruptions by any person or persons of a public meeting will be subject to action in accordance with General Statute 143-318.11. We have a quorum with all board members here, Superintendent Moore and Attorney Neil Ramey. You'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We now move on to the information portion of our meeting, and we'll begin with comments from the superintendent.
Good afternoon, Chairman Haffey and board members. I begin with congratulations to Kirsten Taylor, who today was named the WCPSS School Counselor of the Year during a surprise ceremony at Lincoln Heights Magnet Elementary School. Ms. Taylor has been the school counselor at Lincoln Heights since 2018. She is a leader in her school, among her colleagues, and in the school counseling profession. This year, she received her National Board certification for school counseling. Her comprehensive counseling program at Lincoln Heights has created a safe and welcoming environment that works to improve outcomes for all students. She collaborates with the Community Resiliency Model Restorative Practices team to lead restorative circles that promote systemic change in response to conflict. She coordinates the GROW Ambassador Program, the Rotary Readers, and the Kindness Club. And she secured a grant to provide Calm Down kits in all classrooms. School counselors provide essential behavioral health support for students to help them overcome obstacles and succeed. Given her many and varied contributions to her school, community, and the district, Ms. Taylor is a model for her students and colleagues. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. Congratulations are also in order for Dr. Jessica Lohman, who last week was named the 21-22 WCPSS School Psychologist of the Year. Dr. Lohman has been a school psychologist for 7 years and has practiced in WCPSS all 7 years. She currently serves Bauckham and Oak Grove elementary schools. Dr. Lohman coordinates the school-based mental health team and serves as a consultant on both the autism and low incidence teams. At her schools, Dr. Lohman serves on the school leadership team, developing and implementing school-wide behavioral health supports. She has provided data analysis to identify areas of need and has led professional development to enhance teachers' understanding of classroom-based behavioral interventions. Dr. Lohman regularly consults with special education teachers, service providers, district personnel, and parents to analyze data, identify student needs, provide instructional recommendations to support students. She is passionate about making sure students get the individualized support they need to improve achievement. My thanks to Dr. Lohman for providing a comprehensive level service to both her students and fellow staff members. 4 of our outstanding teachers have been named Keenan Fellows by the Keenan Institute for Engineering, Technology, and Science at NC State University. Leslie Aguirre of Holly Springs High, Sherilyn Murray of Northwake College and Career Academy, Jill Ray of Vernon Malone College and Career Academy, and Emily Simpson of Athens Drive Magnet High School. Keenan Fellows use the knowledge and tools gained during the year-long fellowship to develop innovative educational resources and programs for their schools, districts, and the broader community. A summer internship of at least 3 weeks is at the centerpiece of the program and is supported by 80 hours of professional development that focuses on instructional strategies for integrating data literacy, digital learning, and project-based learning. Our third strategic core belief states that well-supported, highly effective, and dedicated teachers are essential to success for all students. The skills and leadership capabilities these teachers will learn through the Keenan Fellows program can only serve to make their students better prepared for success in college and career. 5 WCPSS students, lots of congratulations there. 5 WCPSS students are among the more than 2,600 winners of the latest round of National Merit Scholarships. The winners are Dylan Schneider of Apex High, Josh Bott of Green Level High, Grace Vaughn of Holly Springs High, Andrew Norris of Middle Creek High, and Adonai Miratib of Wake College of Early College of Health and Sciences. In this third of 4 rounds of the prestigious scholarship program, sponsor colleges or universities have selected winners from among finalists who plan to attend their respective institution. These awards provide between $500 and $2,000 annually for up to 4 years. As you may recall, 10 WCPSS students won National Merit Sponsor Scholarships last month, and 7 won corporate sponsored awards in April. We hope to announce even more winners in the final round next month. Finally, this evening, graduation season is upon us, which gives us all time to reflect on the accomplishments of this year's graduating class and our district's ultimate goal of graduating students ready for productive citizenship as well as college or career. As we think back on our own school experience, how many of us would love to find a teacher who had an indelible impact on us and thank them? We gave several members of the class of 22 the opportunity to do just that, surprising teachers who made a difference in their lives. So please take a moment to view this video as these seniors express their gratitude.
Hey, Miss Buston.
Oh my God!
Rohit.
What are you doing? Oh my God, you're a woman!
I had to come and surprise you.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Like, I got to see, she looks like me, right? And I could see how far people who look like me can go.
It's like confirmation that your work is really not in vain. So,
Yeah. That's why I wanted to reach out. I never forgot you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Why are you so grown up? You're still in 3rd grade.
I just want to say thank you for making me help come when I knew you're like your favorite teacher ever.
She was just always amazing, but it just kind of gives you that confirmation that what you're doing is good. And just those days where it's hard, you can pull from students like her and think of these moments and you can get through anything.
I still remember saying goodbye to you every single day, and I still remember all the snowflakes in the class and everything, and I really loved it, and I want to say thank you.
I do remember that he said goodbye to me every day because not a lot of kids do that.
This is where I'm going to cry.
So the worst thing about teaching is that I don't know what happens to my kids after they leave my classroom. So for him to come back and tell me I'm going to Chapel Hill, I know I chose the right profession.
I don't know, his class was just a lot of fun. He was a great teacher, great guy.
The impact that your class had on me moving to North Carolina, I'm so happy that me being your teacher meant so much to you, but you guys meant so much to me.
That concludes my comments.
I mean, I feel like at this point we should know it's coming every year, but if you have a graduating senior, please have them take time to reach out to that one teacher. It really does mean a lot. I want to congratulate our Track 1 students, families, faculty, and staff on finishing their school year. And our traditional calendar schools will finish up this Friday, and I would like to extend my congratulations to those students, families, faculty, and staff as well. We had a year of renorming and revising our school days, and I want to thank all of you for continuing to put your trust in this district. A special congratulations to our high school graduates. We are beyond excited to celebrate with you. We had some of those celebrations in between our last meeting and this one for our early colleges and those schools that are on the modified calendar. And we know that there's more to come. If you have plans in downtown Raleigh this weekend, plan accordingly, though. We'll be around the convention center mostly. Our hearts and thoughts continue to turn to the tragedy in Uvalde, Texas at Robb Elementary. Wake County Schools, in a commitment and a priority to safety, continues to audit and provide security upgrades to our schools, and the district has recently undergone a school safety assessment and is at work implementing suggestions from that audit. There is an executive summary of this audit available from the main page of our website by clicking on Parents, and is found under Safety and Emergencies. There is also an anonymous tip line for WCPSS, so if you as a faculty member, parent, or student has a tip that you need to share, that number is 919-856-1911, and that is also on our website. And we've had many updates from our Senior Director of Security on the work that his team does in our safety and security. You can find those videos on YouTube, and I imagine we'll be having some updates soon as we go through this audit. I was honored to join our Holly Grove Elementary students in honoring Memorial Day. The students presented information on the importance of this holiday, heard from veterans, shared the Gettysburg Address, and the poem in Flanders Fields, which symbolizes the poppy. This was their 10th year doing this ceremony. Due to weather, the missing man formation that is done overhead was not able to fly, but always wonderful to see the honoring of that day and those who are no longer with us from paying the ultimate sacrifice in our military. I'd like to take a moment to congratulate our superintendent. Kathy Moore yesterday was named Regional Superintendent of the Year by the Carolina Central Regional Education Service Alliance, and the winner of the North Carolina State Superintendent of the Year will be announced in the fall. So congratulations, Superintendent Moore. And lastly, our county commission met yesterday evening and approved their budget for the upcoming fiscal year. We know in North Carolina, school boards do not have taxing authority, and we work hard to partner with them to supplement our budget. The commission unanimously voted to provide additional funding to Wake County Public Schools beyond the county manager's recommendation. And as heard in our finance committee today, we are monitoring any budget changes that may come out of the state's legislative short session. But our priority remains on staff compensation so that our students can have qualified, consistent adults to support them in their education. That concludes my comments today. Vice Chair Hagerty.
Thank you, Chair Mahaffey. So, we had an extra week between our last meeting and this meeting, and the calendars filled up accordingly. There was a number of important events all around the county. Excuse me. We had North Carolina General Assembly debate over the Parents' Right bill that was debated in the Senate. I was able to go down. I saw Ms. Kushner there, too, and we got to see a lot of the debate there in person, in addition to some of the floor debate. I attended a really informative and really great event at Enloe that their PTSA had hosted on the teacher and staffing shortages. But I'm going to defer to our board member who represents Enloe because she was one of the esteemed panelists and had a lot of great information to say. But I just wanted to give kudos to a job well done at that event for Ms. Waters. We had parents from Barton's Pond, the new elementary that will be opening this fall up the Strickland Road neighborhood in North Raleigh, reach out to us with concerns about walk zones and what might be going on when new students start attending that school. And I want to give a compliment to Mr. Bob Sneidmiller and the transportation staff who really worked with parents, gave them the reassurances they need that we will be providing bus transportation to all of those families where there are no sidewalks there. The school's inside Raleigh city limits, but the area around it is outside. And if any of you have ever been on Strickland Road, especially during carpool hours, you know that is no place place you want kids walking by the side of the road. So special thanks to our transportation staff. I want to thank Miss Weaver's third grade class at Parkside Elementary for hosting me. We had a wonderful conversation about pollinators, parks, and ecosystems. And those kids, those are Track 3 kids, they're getting ready for a much greater dive into their life science unit. And so I wish them all the luck with that. Several of us attended the Teacher Assistant of the Year banquet, and special congratulations go to Mr. Richard Jones, who was named the Wake County Teacher of the Year by the Teacher Assistants Association. We met all 10 finalists, got to learn their stories, and also honored all of the retirees who had given their years to the system. While it might not surprise you to hear that there were many retirements, there were some people that were looking to leave the system, the one thing that I saw, and Ms. Carter, who was with me, I think you saw this story too, were just kind of the expressions of sheer and genuine gratitude we heard from so many teaching assistants about their time in the classroom and their time spent with our students and how much it meant to them personally. And that alone made the event really worthwhile, at least for me. I don't know what your experiences were. Chair Mahaffey and I also got to visit Wake Tech Early College of Information and Biotechnology, which we are excited about. This is Morrisville's first high school. It will not be their last. But Wake Tech President Scott Rawls hosted us, and we also got to meet some of the Wake Tech board members and candidates that will be coming, and you'll see more about Wake Tech when those folks come up to us for appointment. But we got a nice tour of the college, early college as well, where our students would be, and they answered several great questions for us. We had the signing day for our Future Teachers program. If you attended the Finance Committee meeting today, you heard that was one of the programs we have to try to address the teaching shortage. And, we all tend to look local. So I don't know how much you look nationally, but there's a national teaching shortage with fewer candidates in colleges and universities around the country that are looking to go into the profession. And so innovative programs like what we have here are a great way to kind of keep local students that understand Wake County Public Schools in that pipeline. And so it was great to see all of those folks. Ms. Mahaffey had already talked to Chair Mahaffey about the county commissions actions today. I want to extend my thanks and my gratitude as well. Also for the county commissioners who took time to meet with us, allowing us to share and explain our budget priorities. Having good relations with the county commissions and having open and two-way communication really is essential for success. I think we're able to explain a lot of things that and hear from them what their concerns were to kind of help them arrive at the decision that they reached at. So the last thing that I want to mention, this was important. The timing of this couldn't have, I think someone joked, either been any worse or any better. We'd planned a community meeting about school security issues, and it happened to take place the day after the Uvalde shooting. This was at Hillburn Academy, and we did have our Senior Director of Security, Russ Smith, there. And what we heard, I thought, was incredibly valuable. Mr. Smith did a fantastic job talking to the community about our lockdown process, about the school safety assessment and audit that was performed by the School Safety Advocacy Council. He talked about the areas of improvement we need to make, and he listened and he took feedback from parents who had their own concerns that were brought to them by their students, maybe their older students. What happens, we'll do lockdown drills, and sometimes we'll have a real lockdown in a chaotic time of the day. Maybe classes are changing, or maybe it's lunchtime. Students are coming on and off campus. What do they do? What do the students do who are locked out? How can we better improve all of these processes and procedures? It's one thing to have a book of policies, but it's another to actually carry them out and make sure that everybody's on the same page and knows what to do. And I really appreciate Mr. Smith taking the time, listening to all the parents, and then staying after the meeting to answer the additional questions as well. This is something that I don't know about the rest of you. I've had many parents come to me with several different ideas, several different concerns, and I'm sure you're going to be talking about it in future meetings for months to come. Thank you.
Ms. Kushner.
Thank you, Chair Mahaffey. And just to add, Mr. Jones, our IA of the Year is from Riverbend Elementary, a District 6 school, soon to be District 4, but District 6 school this year. So congratulations to Mr. Jones. And congratulations to all our graduates. I think we could hear the roars from both Reynolds and Maimondi throughout Wake County to the joy of graduations. I'm a graduation junkie because it's just such a wonderful place of joy and happiness for the students who are going on to their next level. So it's wonderful to participate in those coming up as well. Thanks to Hodge Road for having us to volunteer with Wake Up and Read. It's always it was a great fun spending the morning with that wonderful program, making sure students are expanding their personal libraries. And yesterday, Ms. Carter and I were able to be in Ms. McClaslin's 8th grade science class at Mills Park Middle. They are brilliant students trying to help Mills Park become more sustainable. So solar panels on the roofs, gardens expanded, both including on window ledges, having bees pollinate the gardens, but also expanding recycling. Some real sound suggestions for us on how we can be more sustainable in our schools. Thanks to her for having us there. And also to the commissioners, we need to lift up how supportive they have been. And they also yesterday importantly expanded their own, and I said this in the work session and it bears repeating, their health and human service budget. And just want to challenge our school system to work with our county partners to make sure that our students are connected with existing services in the county that can support their needs and their families' needs and their parents' needs. So excited to continue to work with our wonderful county commissioners. And I appreciate Mr. Hegarty raising issues of students and school safety. It's been on all of our minds, I believe. So I would just ask parents and families, if you do have weapons at home, please secure them. Make sure that your children do not have access to firearms. It's we know what we should be doing, and I think we all can step up to keep our students and our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kushner. Ms. Waters.
Thank you, Chair Mahaffey. I've had a really great couple of weeks out in District 4, visiting some of the schools, some great excitement, great things going on in our classrooms. And as I think about our schools, I really want to give some kudos to our custodial staff because they are a really important part of the school community, and that was really on full display for me when I went to Poe Elementary. I was like, this school is spotless, and so I really appreciate our custodial staff for all the work that they do throughout all of our schools. And my visit to Poe was really special as I had a chance to participate in Read Across America. They had their map, and after they confirmed that I had read 10 minutes for the day, they did allow me to put my sticker up on the map, and so it was great to participate in that and to see all the great things going on at the school. Academically, they have such rigorous programs there, and then also with their music and arts program, it was great to see that they start orchestra all the way in kindergarten. So amazing things going on at Poe Elementary. And also had a wonderful visit to Wilburn Elementary. Principal Teasley is doing an amazing job leading the school community, very exciting and vibrant and energetic environment. We had a chance to visit a lot of the classrooms there, and I especially enjoyed the time that I spent in the EBS classroom. Both the students and the teachers were one of the highlights of that visit, so really appreciate the time to get to know more about the school community at Wilburn. And Fuller Elementary was having their field day when I went for their visit. If I did not have to go back to work, I would have enjoyed being in the dunking booth. So that was a lot of fun to get to see the kids out and enjoying. And it made me think of my own elementary school days, and that was always a fun time for me being a part of field day. Knightdale Elementary, great visit, and thank you for allowing me to come to see the school. Ms. Scott coordinated a visit, and so Knightdale Elementary will be coming to District 4, so it was great to be out and visit the school community there and see all that is going on at their school. And Mr. Haggerty mentioned the Enloe PTSA. They invited me to be a part of their State of Enloe panel, which was focused on teacher recruitment and retention, such an important topic. And as you can see from the video where all the seniors are going back to thank their teachers, there is such power in the work that teachers do. And so we want to make sure that we advocate and attract teachers into such an amazing profession. And so was so glad to be a part of that panel with Mr. Mike Chappelle, who's the Senior Director of Talent and Acquisition here for the district, and also Professor Aaron Horn from NC State, and Representative Julie Von Hafen as well. So a great panel, great discussion, and always great to see Mr. Haggerty in any event where I can attend. I appreciate his encouragement. And so lots of great things going on in District 4. And I also had a chance to go to Wake Up and Read event at Walnut Creek Elementary School. And so as a parent of children in the district, it was great to see the other side and to have that experience where the children actually get to go and shop and pick out their books, and such excitement to build their school library, their home libraries, and to see how they go through the process of picking out their books. And so I really appreciate that. And so if you have gently used books at home, save those for their next drive, and they will be loved in a new place. So keep that in mind. And congratulations to the class of 2022. Really special to be a part of those graduations, and really great to hear what their next phase of their journey will be. It really makes me excited to think about our students and the next generation. We have some great, amazing talent in the district. And as a mom and of children in the district, I know safety is a concern for all of us. And as I have visited all the schools, one of the things that has been really special to me is to be out with the principals. And I've often said, I don't know which principal has been out hugged when they walk through the school communities. And the way the children react is just a show of how loved and safe they feel in their schools. And I think that we need to continue to do all that we can do to make sure that our schools are safe for our children. And so I'm so glad that this district is being proactive and doing work to hear from parents and to look and be willing to really be proactive in the way that we protect our school communities. Our children deserve to be in safe places, and they yes, so I just thank you for the opportunity to share about what's going on in District 4, and very grateful.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. Ms. Carter.
Switching it up tonight, I see. All right, thank you. Yeah, like, where's she going? Where's she going? I want to start out with, I just say it, you'll know me. I started out at West Cary Middle School. Seems like a while because we did have that extra week there. They had their spring concert for the beginning and concert band. And what I thought was kind of an extra treat, since many of those students will be moving on to Cary High School. Some of the Cary High band students came and performed with them. So it was just a great evening of performance. And coming from middle school, I appreciated this comment by band director Mr. Anderson. There were some really cool lights that were reflecting on the ceiling, and that's why they were there, because they were really cool lights and they looked really cool. And the kids loved it. And so I know that sounds like such a simple thing, but it's lots of things like that that helps build connections with our students. And I know you're all like, what? But coming from middle school, that really resonated with me because I could just see something like that happening in the classroom. But it was just a wonderful performance. The students did awesome, and they had some special effects with some the smoke coming across the stage, some as well. So I appreciate all of the volunteers that make that possible as well, not only the students, but also the families and the community members. And the art teacher, I want to thank Mr. Miller because, as he did previously, he set up an art gallery. So you had a 2-for-1 if you went. You got to walk around and see some great artwork that the students had been put together throughout the school year, and just different projects that they had done. So I want to thank them for all of that. And then it's been mentioned the Future Teachers events. There was also the luncheon that we attended to celebrate those who were participating and those who were being hired for this coming up school year, those who are just wrapping up. And it is just such a great program. The signing event last year, I may or may not have made a comment about really liking some music to come on, because I'm kind of, I just think it's kind of like the athletic events. A lot of times you go to the signing, and so I just appreciate that feedback being well received. And the music being added this year, it kind of took it, I think music can take things to another level. So I appreciate that. It just adds to the excitement for this program, and such a wonderful event for these students who are willing to say, you know what, I want to come back and I want to work for you all. And this is a great place. They've come through our system, and I'm wanting to come back and serve. So thank everyone for all your work on this, especially Ms. Morris, I know, who does, I don't know if she's watching or not, but I appreciate everything you do for that. And I know the Teachers Association celebration has been mentioned, but I call it a hopping event because I feel like they kind of have a great way to have fun and really celebrate everyone. They had all of the school, each teacher assistant from the schools that were present line up. So it was just amazing to see that and have them walk down the staircase where we were at and just really celebrate each of them and the amazing work that they do. And those, again, congratulations, Mr. Jones from Riverbend, of course, and the 6 retirees that were honored. I thought it was quite significant that all of them had at least 2 decades of service to our district. And that really shows their commitment and their joy in what they find and they do for our students and our staff and our families. And this is kind of a side note because I like little side notes, but they also gave out like a best dressed. And if I just have to give this plug because when I was at Davis Drive Middle School, Mr. Gaudet was an AP there, and if you know he's now the principal at Oakview. I think I'm saying that right, yeah. If you know him, you know that is so appropriate. He won one of those awards, and so Principal Gaudet, you are still, you're still carrying that on, so appreciate that. And that carries on into the classroom and the connecting with the kids, or at least I saw it firsthand when he was at Davis Drive Middle School. That helps with the connection and the relationship building. So I'm just going to, I know that's a little off topic, but I had to say that. And the other one, an athletic event, was a couple on one night. It was Green Hope had their signing event, which was always great for students who are choosing to take that academically to the next level, and also whatever their game may be, whether it be tennis, basketball, baseball, swimming, taking it to the next level. Congratulations for your hard work on that and all those who have supported those students, because it's not only the academic and behavioral support, but also the athletic support, because it takes a lot to have these athletic programs running in full gear. And then also I went to the Cary High School Athletic Award Ceremony, and I just have to say, they do one night, and the athletic director, shout out to him, Mr. Rogers, and his daughter, who put together the slideshow and helped with the pictures. It was fabulous. I loved it because it honored every single team that they have in one night, and they would call them all down, and those who were present all lined up at the front, and everyone got to encourage them, not just if they were winning an award or not, but the whole team, every single one, and the athletic training program they have there, which is tremendous. And they honored the seniors, got senior awards, and also special various awards. But it was just a great event. And yesterday I was with Miss Kushner at Mills Park Middle School, Miss Caslin's class, I believe, Caslin, thank you. And really it was spotlight on the students and their sustainability, because we hear a lot from our community members, parents and those who are in adults, but the students really did their research and really took this very seriously. They gave us statistics. Some surveyed students at Mills Park. They looked up cost, did cost analysis, how much it would cost to do it, how much we could save. And it was just a great work. I really think, too, as I was listening and coming back, just proud of also the models that they did. Some of that was, the rock garden and everything. I'm just saying it was fabulous. But it really speaks to me a lot because I hear some things and, I'm like, oh, I know a school that's doing that, right? And, I again, go back to, I think it would be helpful to really find a way to connect schools and resources and partners in the community who are willing to help our schools put certain things into place because it could just really kickstart that around our district. So I'd really appreciate those students just, and not being shy, and some of them had some amazing personalities that I was like, wow, they could come and just speak here and just keep us, they were just fantastic. So thank you for that. And in closing, a special shout out to the Green Hope Unified Track and Field team. They left for Orlando, Florida on, it was last week, but it's the week-long National Special Olympics competition, and they are there competing and cheering on other athletes as well. But best of luck to you all, and job well done for even making it there and qualifying. So thank you.
That's awesome. And I know I met Ms. McCaslin as she was presenting at STEMposium, which is presented by Wake Ed Partnership. So I know many teachers would love to get involved with that. But sadly, she's moving to the first Morrisville High School. Dr. Martin.
Thank you. I'd like to begin again with congratulations. As others have noted, big congratulations to the Instructional Assistant of the Year, great event, and all the retirees. The district would not function without RIAs. They provide amazing resources and amazing relationships to children, which is such a major part of education. Others have noted that the graduation season is really going to be starting in full this weekend, but our Wake County STEM Early College and Vernon Malone College and Career Academy graduated, 2 weeks ago? So congratulations to all of those graduates. Again, I think it's important that we keep an eye on COVID infections. As reported for last week, which was a short week, a 4-day week, we had 945 cases here in Wake County Public Schools. There were 722 students, 233 staff. It is important to note that in this last spike, we have had more staff out sick than by almost 1.5 times than we had in the January-February spike. The January-February spike, well, there was still more pandemic control measures in place. We had only 3 weeks of what I would call extreme staff absences, and I'm calling extreme by more than 100 staff out. We are now into our 6th week with over 100 staff out. By not taking as many precautions, we are seeing more cases, and we're seeing this spike drawn out. So I strongly encourage everyone, when you're indoors in significantly populated locations, you should be wearing a mask. Right now, based on the data that was just released this afternoon, the reported cases in Wake County are 400 cases per 100,000 population. And notably, that we have plateaued at that level of reported cases for the last 8 days, starting to climb up just a little bit. So we had dropped, but it looks like that plateau is oftentimes a signature of it going back up. So we are definitely not out of the woods on this. The state numbers are 2 weeks delayed now, but we're basically seeing student-level cases competing with the overall community cases. So we're getting substantial spread in our schools, but also from the state-reported numbers, recognizing the Wake County schools has about 75% of the total students. What we basically see from our absences that are reported, there's at least a threefold unreported level to the state, and that's because of home testing and whatnot. So COVID's with us. COVID's real. I'm still recovering. It's not fun. And wear a mask, particularly as you go to graduations and highly populated locations. We want you to celebrate. We want you to engage, but please be safe. And wearing a mask voluntarily will actually help reduce the spread. Finally, I need to reflect on the last couple weeks as an educator, because the last couple weeks have been very difficult as an educator. The mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, I think hit deep to everyone who's been in a classroom. Everyone who's been in a classroom has looked at doors to understand who might go in and how to protect those that are in your classroom. It's sobering. You know, at the elementary school, you probably don't think about it as much, but at the high school and definitely the university level, you look for those relationships with students. Who has had a history and a background that could turn violent. I have had students that I wasn't sure. And so I look at those events and I feel it. I feel it also as a parent, you know, who, but for the grace of God, it could have been my children. It's tough. It's tough as an educator. And the response we often have heard is to the schools, we need more safety plans. Well, this school district has worked very hard over the last, as long as I've been on the board, to make sure our safety plans are up to date. There's no such thing as a good enough safety plan. Mr. Smith does a phenomenal job of running our security team and ensuring that we continually audit and improve our safety plans. We have safety plans in place, but safety plans can't protect everything. And they can't be completely public either, because safety plans have to have private aspects. You don't disclose all of your potential vulnerabilities. So to political figures who are asking for everything to be public, I'm sorry, you can't do that. That increases vulnerability. We hear all kinds of talk about better control of entrances. We've been working on that as a member of the Facilities Committee as long as I've been on the Facilities Committee. We can't harden schools. We can make them safer. And we do that. If you look at all of our new construction, we take entry and control of who's in the schools and sight lines incredibly seriously. We look at that for every renovation that we do as well. But we recognize that we have a lot of schools that could use better entry control. Problem is that costs resources. It's not something you can just flip a switch and all of a sudden it's taken care of. And oh, by the way, even if you had the dollars to build all of those vestibule entry systems, what people often don't recognize is that if you do that kind of a major renovation, now by federal law, you have to bring the rest of the school up to ADA standards. We're talking major investments. Oh, by the way, these are investments that we should have been making for a very long time. We shouldn't wait for a crisis to make these investments. You can't do it in a short period of time. It requires a long-term commitment. That's what we need. We need investment. We've heard a lot of people calling for mental health support. Oh, by the way, has anybody followed this board's budgets over the last, I don't know how many years, where we have been calling the state legislature and local funders as well to try to get us up to the nationally recommended norms of counselors, social workers, psychologists, nurses in our buildings? Is there more of a mental health crisis in this country than other places? No. Is there a need for mental health? Yes. Please, please, please invest in what we have been trying to call out for years and years and years. But no, instead, we had a distraction. We had this uproar about some flashcards. They were supporting diverse families. I've looked at those flashcards. There's nothing inappropriate in them. Were they part of the curriculum? No. Were they valuable to some families? Probably. From everything I've heard, and I don't know the personnel details, but this was a highly regarded teacher who got bullied and harassed over flashcards? If your life and existence is so fragile that flashcards are going to somehow socially engineer a child, I'm sorry. What we did is we made it more likely for people to leave the classroom. We didn't need that blown up to be a nationalized, politicized thing. We need to respect diversity. We need to respect our families. And if there is an issue, let's take care of it and not blow it up to a national political issue. Oh, but we have to have this distraction called this Parental Bill of Rights. I tried to read that bill. I've read a variety of legislation. And I'm sorry, most of what I see is a bunch of word salad with hot button issues. This isn't a Parental Bill of Rights. This is a desire for parental control of their children. When I looked through a lot of the vocabulary in that thing, I see parents calling for control in ways that they themselves would not want their parents to have controlled their life. We need parental engagement in education, yes. We don't need parental control of education. Our children are not things to be controlled. Our children are people to be engaged with, to be inspired. We don't need that distraction. What should we do? We need to look at what will encourage teachers to go into the classroom. We need to invest so teachers want to be there in safe spaces, in support of mental health issues, in support when there are curricular issues. We need to stand up to bullies and not let bullies drive our good teachers from the classroom. And if the legislature has questions, at a minimum, just fund Leandro. It'll go a long ways to making our classrooms and our schools places that people want to be in, and for professionals to engage and not question whether they belong there. Thank you.
Ms. Cash. Ms. Cash.
Not sure I can follow that, but thanks. Well, the highlight of my week was going to something I've not been to before. Was an IB graduation at Millbrook High School. And I don't think I've ever been to an IB graduation, but it gave me a whole new insight into community. And the IB graduation had parents that had been involved with their kids all 4 years at Millbrook High School. And it was a community that was amazing. I want to say that Dr. Saunders did a great job of honoring Dana King at Millbrook for the IB graduation. He told a story, which I kind of remember, but Superintendent Moore will remember better, that she fought really hard for the IB program and, in fact, took it away from another high school. And then we gave it back, I think, and refunded it. So they had 2 funded high schools for the IB program, but she got her IB program. And that was just, I think that was a great honor to Dana King. It showed her personality and the grit. I'm going to do better about this IB graduation. I've got to put some notes together, but the speeches at this graduation were amazing. Some were by the students, and some were by the teachers and coordinators, and every time I heard something, I'd say, oh, I got to write that down. I need to write that down. It was the most amazing set of speeches. But what it showed me was that these kids get into this IB graduation, or this IB program, and they work extremely hard, and they went through COVID but did not complain about it and stuck with it. And the grit that they showed, but how they talked about it at the graduation was that it made them better at facing life in so many ways. And it was their coordinator, who was extremely funny, said it was kind of like getting on a roller coaster. You know you get on it, you know you're going to get off of it, but you don't know what's going to happen from the top to the bottom. And you really can't get off in between. So it was a highlight, and I will give it better credence later when I can look at the notes from the teachers that I'll still. Part of what I've done mostly, I think the highlight of also, that was my highlight, but spending time following the end of school events in our schools is so uplifting. These are parents that truly are involved in our schools on a daily basis. They're working on their PTAs, they're in the classrooms, they're working with their kids every day. They are truly involved parents, and they have set up end of school events, even in some of the low wealth schools that just really struggle, to thank the teachers and staff there. And it's been fun to watch. And I thank the parents that are in our schools every day for what they do, as well as our staff and our principals. It's been a lot of positive. Another favorite thing I got to do has been meeting with neighborhoods about neighborhood groups about student reassignment, calendars. My favorite part about that is that I get to bother Glenn Carozzo. And since he's over magnets and capacity and student and stuff like that, and there's a lot of questions in this stuff about capacity and things, and he's not of transportation, but it is good to go out and talk about upcoming possible calendar changes, neighborhood reassignments possibly, things that might impact the neighborhood that I want to have open dialogue with. So the other thing is I want to totally say thank you to Russ Smith and his department. I've known Russ a very long time, as many of the people in our audience have, and I trust him completely. And the fact that we've had this safety and security audit just recently, and if you have not seen that, it's very well done by an outside company, and we've learned a lot about it. We've got a lot of funding issues to look at, but I feel very fortunate to have him and the other people in his department in Wake County. And finally, I just want to say thank you to the Wake County Commissioners for being such good partners with us. I'm a big person about partners in our community, and I just want to thank them. I just do not take that for granted, so it's a good thing to end the note on.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson-Hostler.
Then I will start there, Ms. Cash. I echo the sentiments of the appreciation of our commissioners, and some of you know I strongly appreciate the increase in universal lunch that Commissioner Calabria and I started when he initially came on the board. So that was great to see that they, while couldn't meet our full needs, understood the conversations and are paying attention to our conversations. And we've been talking about rising costs of our lunches and the impact that that has on our students. So for me, that speaks to the level of their engagement and paying attention to what's happening on our school board. So I certainly will start on that note of appreciating them. I guess I will say, so after Uvalde, I was in D.C. for work and was meeting with DOJ specifically, but as you can imagine, all they talked about was Uvalde and what happened. They had just been on the ground there. And one of the things that I think, when I say justice, it's their Office of Victims of Crime, looking at how they fund families who've been disenfranchised and how do they provide therapeutic services as a result of the loss. How do they help rebuild the community, both structurally, safety, and mental health-wise, which it was hats off to them. I was glad to hear all that, even though I was like, I'm here for a funding issue. But one of the things that I walked away from that after that meeting, and of course, you all know I'm married to an educator, I have a child in school, was truly how we all have to pay attention after the fact, because unfortunately, until we do commit to change this in our country, which I do believe is a decision that we can make and have the ability to make as a country, then part of that is remembering the broad sweeping impact it has on those communities. And so one of the things that that the director I was meeting with said that she heard from families was just the mere acknowledgement that families were harmed in a way that we can't describe. They still don't have all the words for, but so were all those educators in that building who in that moment truly their intentions were to protect every student in that building, not just in their classroom, but truly emotionally what that means. And again, the fact that they won't also be able to fully understand the way that that implements our brain development. And so you all know I spent a lot of time talking about trauma-informed work, but the reality is when trauma happens, it changes our brain, and we have to retrain the brain in how it responds to trauma. So we literally have to be actively engaged. And I think it's just important to say, because as I said last board meeting, our communities don't have boundaries, so that's also true for all of our educators in Wake County. They watch that trauma, and that is also impacting who they are and how they show up in our school buildings. And so while physical safety is vitally important, but so is emotional and personal safety as we watch our folks prepare for what, for most of our educators, is a very short break, especially our year-rounders. And so just recognizing, seeing those graduates thank us teacher, and we all have teacher appreciation, which we generally don't pay as much attention to in high schools. I strongly recommend, if your children are still in school, that you remind them to thank those adults in that building. One, because we don't do it enough, and two, because it truly is a part of retraining the brain and who they are and how they show up with their students. So that's my request for how we take care of each other as a community, and also remembering that our safety includes our physical safety, our personal physical safety as well. And we have a long way to go. And I know several colleagues know where my husband teaches, and I generally don't panic. So the impact I'm telling you to retrain the brain was my first panic when my husband's school had a lockdown. Generally, I'm like, oh, they'll figure it out, because I also trust our security at Wake County Public School. But for the first time, I wasn't prepared for my own physical and emotional reaction. My daughter's been in a lockdown. I can tell you it was not the same because it was less than a week after Uvalde. So I just think it's important to share a personal experience of how trauma impacts us even when it wasn't directly in your space. I had a completely different physical reaction this time. And as I think most people will, but again, as I said, we don't often think about the personal implications until it happens, and then all of that trauma comes back to us in that moment. So please take care of each other. And as you've heard one of my colleagues mention, the county has been very resourceful and committed, especially for the last few years, for how we respond to behavioral intervention countywide. And so again, a huge appreciation, now more than ever, the need for those things. On to happier news. Like all of my colleagues, we certainly love graduation, although I'm pretty convinced now I'm not going to love it as much next year when I have a graduate, because I'm starting to have a lot of feelings about being an empty nester. I'm really like, maybe 2 children would have been better. But nonetheless, I do enjoy graduation, and especially our smaller graduations that we've been to, because we actually get to hear what students are going to do. And again, you've heard us talk about this at Student Achievement. Not all of our students are going on to higher education. And so for me, that is a space in those smaller schools where we actually get get to be proud and share the accolades regardless of what their next steps are. And so I think that's just a value that many community members don't know if their children don't go to small schools, that is the only space for me as a board member. I get to see us be proud and give accolades to our students regardless of what their next step is, because we clearly speak to, we want to prepare our students whether they're college, career, or military ready. And that's what we get to hear when those students walk across the stage and we hear what's next for them. And again, I think it's important. They need to know that we're applauding them just as loud regardless of what their next steps are, because they truly indeed have crossed the stage into monumental changes. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, as you can imagine, with COVID, the speeches have been far more funnier for those that I could actually really hear, because some of our graduations have had a little mic issues, but those that I've heard, I mean, they've just cracked me up because they've been really personal, very direct about the impact of COVID on them. So again, it speaks to the ways in which our students are trying to figure out how to move forward, and also realizing, just like me as a parent, that, gosh, you rushed this grow up thing, but it really isn't all it's cracked up to be. So I've enjoyed also listening to our young people. You all know I also love our performing arts like many of our colleagues, and my daughter teaches dance as well as takes dance at a very large studio, and so I always volunteer every year so parents can watch their children on the stage while I am backstage taking care of their little ones. This year we didn't have TV, so I had to figure out how to entertain them. Not my gift, you all. So because I'm on the school board, I was like, let's talk about what school we go to and your favorite teacher. And for the record, that was a hit. They loved it. And then they started asking each other, why is that your favorite teacher? So it really helped me manage 6 to 8 year olds by talking about their schools and how much they love their teachers. And so I asked them all to make sure they went to school, for those who were still in school, that they go back and tell their favorite teacher that they told somebody that they were their favorite teacher, because most of them said, oh, I never told my teacher they're my favorite teacher. Mind you, they've had about 2 teachers by this point, but it doesn't matter. They have a favorite teacher. Because that's what my daughter said. She was like, you know they haven't had that many teachers, right? And I was like, don't ruin it for me and these kids. This is fun. They're excited. So again, and of course, watching them on the stage, and they're little, so they're like, mommy, they're calling it from the stage, and watching the gleam in their parents' eyes is just a reminder of how important our resources and access to are. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. There are several studios in our county who are also subsidizing so much of our performing arts to ensure, because we do realize the importance of giving kids access and opportunity that can't afford it. And so thank you to all of our partners, and especially the large number of teachers I saw coming to see their children outside of school. It means a lot to the students, but it also means just as much to those parents who were thanking those educators for being in the space on a Friday night or Saturday morning, Saturday night or Sunday. Because I saw one at a 11 o'clock performance on a Saturday morning. So thank you to all of our educators who come to support your students outside of the classroom in the school building, because that speaks to the community that we're hoping to build. And lastly, I'll thank the 2 municipalities that are in my district. Thank you, Fuquay, for inviting me to your leadership, and we were able to talk about all of our schools, because that's really what they want to know, is what schools, what they do. But we also talked a lot about all the other education adjacent issues like public servant housing. I had several public servants who were part of this leadership team that I met with, and we talked about the fact that most of them, because it was in Fuquay, have moved to Harnett or Johnston County and don't live in Wake County, and we're able to truly understand what that means for our educators in that conversation. So again, I don't have to tell my board members, but because you all visit us every month, I think it's important for you all to also begin to have those conversations in your community, that there are so many education adjacent conversations that are invaluable to making us and keeping us as a great public school for our young people to attend and to create community. So please continue to talk about what is it like for affordable housing, what does it look like for traffic, and engaging in traffic studies, because all of our educators are impacted by all of those things that aren't just about the reading, writing, arithmetic, and performing arts in our school buildings. And so I encourage you to start talking to your colleagues and neighbors and friends about all of those other issues that directly impact our public education school system as well. So thank you, Fuquay, for always engaging me, and to the amazing companies in that community who strongly are public school supporters. I learned that every year that I get to go back, I get to hear from John Deere and Bob Barker about how much they really care about our public schools, and I'm lifting them up because I realize every single year they have a ton of people there to talk about and praise our schools, and that's the only opportunity I hear from them. So I don't think I've ever publicly thanked them for their support, but certainly thank you. And lastly, Garner Garner is also in my district, and so one of the things that I've been talking about, especially around school suspension and creating school community when our kids transition from elementary to middle or middle to high, is ensuring that those feeder schools are connected, and we actually have that happening in the new Garner Parks and Recs building, thanks to my Timber Drive teacher, Ms. Tracy Little, and their PTA for hosting the first family event in the new Garner Parks and Rec, and we had representative from all of our feeder schools in the hot, because it was a 97-degree day, and they were all outside talking about their school, so that not just the students who were, especially our fifth graders, ready for middle school, and our, but the parents also could have those conversations about what they could be doing around transition. And again, a great partnership with the town. All the town leaders were there, and really appreciating what, again, I think we've talked about a lot, but it is our first foot forward in Garner to create a partnership between our schools in Garner, but also the town of Garner, to really ensure that families know that regardless of where you live, when you're assigned to a Garner school, you're a part of the Garner community. So thank you to the folks in Garner who made the commitment to all of our students who attend schools in Garner. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scott.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Johnson-Hustler, for saying that about the relationships with the municipalities. I've been very fortunate over the years that Wake Forest and Rollsville do great work for their students and their communities with leadership teams with their chambers and with the town. And Nightdale is incredibly supportive of their schools. And Wendell and Zebulon every month at their board meetings invite recognized students and employees from our Wake County schools to come in and say hello. So thank you for acknowledging that and highlighting the important relationships we have with our municipalities. Wanted to say a huge congratulations to Gabriella Burwell from Nightdale High School. She's been acknowledged before by the school system, but they did have their national competition, and while she was not one of the finalists for the national competition, or she was a finalist, but she did not win the competition for Poetry Out Loud. But just an outstanding work. We heard her deliver. She spoke at the Teacher of the Year ceremony. Just an amazing talent. And if you recall, 2021, the North Carolina Poetry Out Loud winner was also from Nightdale High School. So we have some amazing things happening throughout the county, but I always like to highlight the parts in Eastern Wake as well. A lot of our teachers are finishing up their national boards applications around this time of year, and that is a huge lift on any year, but this year, I mean, it's amazing, and I wish everyone the best of luck as you're awaiting those results. But please know that just to even make it to that finish line with the application process is a huge accomplishment. And a thank you to all of our educators and our school administrative teams this year. I personally know 3 people who heard the calling of education and are now 2 are full-time teachers, and 1 is a teaching assistant in a regional special education program. And I know that there are many people like that across our district who stepped up, and so thank you again to everyone for sharing your talents. I also wanted to offer just an acknowledgement of a Wake County Public School System graduate. Many of you, if you watch the news, national news right now, have probably seen Andrea Pete from the Team Drea Foundation. She is a Wake County graduate. She did the Hunter Ligon Inlow magnet track and starting back in the 80s. So when the magnet program really just started, her parents took the leap of faith, and they were so grateful for it. And they still talk, even though it's been a couple of decades. They still talk about the impact that it had on their lives and everything that they were so grateful to the opportunity for their daughter and the opportunity to serve neighborhood children in those schools. But Andrea was diagnosed with ALS in 2014 at the age of 33. Sadly, I know too many of us are familiar with just what a horrific, horrible, cruel disease ALS is. And Andrea started experiencing symptoms after she did her first 70.3 or half iron distance triathlon, and started stumbling, felt like she was having muscle cramps, wasn't sure, and then was diagnosed shortly thereafter. She continued to to complete a sprint triathlon after her diagnosis, and then continued to race in triathlons using a recumbent trike, but was still able to swim on her own. And she would use her trike for the bicycle and the run portion of the race. And she has started this foundation to raise money for ALS research, specifically ALS TDI. They do great research and not just treating ALS, but finding a cure. That's what we really want to have happen. And so she had set a goal prior to COVID to do a marathon on her recumbent trike in every state, all 50 states. And she met her goal on May 28th, I believe, where she competed in the Prince of Wales Marathon. And so she met her goal, raised, I think just in that effort alone, over $100,000 for ALS research. But I share all of that to say these are the amazing people we have in our school system who graduate with these goals and service to others. And when we look at those 4 C's, I think so many of our graduates, even if they don't raise $1 million for a very important cause, they do go on to share their gifts and talents with the world, and that's all we can want. As we were listening to some of our presentations about safety with several, we had an alternative learning center teacher talk about the importance that her students feel safe, that we're show that we're there to help them, and heard 2 outstanding principals share what they do in their roles as leadership to make sure that their schools and their teachers are able to provide safety for their students, because I'm sure many of you have seen, if you've been in a classroom, that you have to Maslow before Bloom, that you have to have those fundamental needs in place before you can then go on to access education and really do the higher layers of synthesis when it comes to education. And those first 3 things in Maslow are physiological, safety, and love and belonging. And as I've been thinking and processing, I mean, I have a 4th grade daughter. Columbine happened my first year teaching, and as Ms. Johnson-Hustler noted, it stays with you. You can't shake that, and honestly, you shouldn't be able to shake it, because you should process it, do better for yourself, and then do better for others. And I'm just thinking that it's Pride Month, and the way that we treat with our words, the way that we treat people with our words, particularly LGBTQ people. I've heard some things over the last few years, I mean for many years, but it's just heartbreaking, because our students need to feel safe when they're in a school, and they need to feel safe and feel okay with who they are. And going back to my 4th grader, when we were at the pediatrician's office for one of their well checks, I got the pamphlet on puberty, and one of the things that mentioned was LGBTQ considerations, and that you should please, talk to your parent, talk to a family member, or talk to a teacher. Because in some families, that's the reality. You might not be able to talk to mom and dad. We hope and pray that our kids will always want to come to us. But that's not always the reality. With our words, knowing that we can damage so deeply, I ask you to please think of, with your words, what can you do to provide safety for others? What can you do to provide our students with hope at a time where our society needs it more than ever? That's words that are not going to cut or hurt or be violent to someone else for their identity,
for their political affiliation. And I just ask that we consider now more than ever, what can we do to give our students hope? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve our meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Johnson-Hostler, second by Dr. Martin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Okay. We spent some more time than usual on our comments this evening, and I want to thank you all for your patience. 4 words really stuck out: parents, community, partnership, and safety. And I think as we move on to our first information item from the Office of Academic Advancement, we will continue those themes. So I'll ask Mr. Drew Cook, Michelle Woodson, and Kim Keith from the YMCA to join us. And we have some other community partners in the room as well. Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Chair Mahaffey, Superintendent Moore. And just to note, Ms. Woodson is with a new granddaughter in Georgia right now, so she sends her regards.
Congratulations.
Otherwise, she would be here. So thank you for that segue and the transition. And as you referenced, Chair Mahaffey, I am excited to be here this evening with some very special guests and community partners seated over to my right. And we're going to spend a few minutes just taking some time to highlight some work that the district has been engaging in with several members of our community and community organizations over the last couple months that we're really excited about in terms of the potential impact on our students in a positive way moving forward. So I'll start with just a little context to kind of get us started. It does go without saying, I think at this point, that the Wake County Public School System, like every other school system in the country, has had to confront and tackle challenges unlike those ever seen before or during the COVID-19 pandemic. Everything, as we all know, changed quite literally overnight when brick and mortar schools closed in March of 2020. How we taught, how students learned, and how we reached students in need all shifted in an instant. What did not change, however, was our dedication to serving Wake County Public School System students and families. And to be clear, by our dedication, I'm not referencing just the Wake County Public School System, I'm referencing our broader community. We truly doubled down, I think, on that commitment, and we'll have to do so in the months and years ahead. Moving forward, one strategy and commitment among many that will be essential in supporting the success of our students is strengthening and expanding our collaboration with community partners to meet the academic and social emotional needs of all of our students. We know that when schools and community organizations, like those represented here this evening and many others, work together to support learning, everyone benefits, especially our students. This evening, we wanted to take a few minutes to highlight the growing and strengthening partnership with our community and how this partnership will serve to strengthen and support us in addressing the needs of our students in the months and years ahead. Emerging from 2 years of COVID response, our goal is to capture all that we have learned and apply it to our work as we move forward in a way that will strengthen the foundation for how we teach and how we provide extended learning opportunities. Importantly, both within the school day and beyond the school walls and limits of the school day. Our intent is to employ a graduated approach as we expand this partnership into action. We'll do several things, including remaining engaged with our stakeholders and also forging a sense of ownership among those that we serve and those that we support. We'll also ensure that we're better aligned in terms of our vision for what good teaching, learning, and support services looks like with feedback and input from multiple stakeholders. And we will also work to align our efforts with the ongoing development of the district's strategic plan. Obviously, much work lies ahead, but it's exciting work and work that is full of promise and, in our view, limitless opportunities. And with apologies to the board who's now seen this slide 4 times, in the last 4 hours. I will say that there's probably many folks in the community that have not. So if you'll indulge me for just a few minutes as a point of reference for this work and other efforts moving forward. We have been in the process of mapping out a longer-term comprehensive effort that we believe will transition our district into and through pandemic recovery. We believe that unprecedented times call for unprecedented reimagining and reinventing. As an important complement to rigorous standards-aligned instruction taking place in our classrooms, we fully expect that high-dosage tutoring can and will have a positive impact on student outcomes. To be clear, and as we talked about earlier this afternoon, we have no notion that we can just quote-unquote tutor our way through an effective pandemic recovery effort. But if done with strategy and with purpose, we believe it can and will be an important and impactful tool, especially if we're able to harness the collective energy and willingness of community partners like are in the room this evening. So here, as we plan the next phase of delivery of high-quality instruction and strong support services for our students, we know that these desired outcomes, which our board has seen but many members of the public have not, will take some time to achieve. And just to highlight a few of these, a pre-K-12 comprehensive balanced assessment system, a structure and process to provide core and supplemental instructional resources and materials that will enrich and support the curriculum and enhance student learning, high-quality core instruction and tiered supports that are visible in every classroom every day, a comprehensive professional learning system for teachers and staff, strategic communication and collaboration pathways, as evidenced by the work that we're sharing this evening, a multi-year finance and allotment plan to resource and provide direct service to schools and to students, and also an evaluation and improvement cycle that guides systemic processes and refine implementation. In other words, how do we know if it's working? And if it's not working as well as we believe it should, what adjustments can we make moving forward? So in the few minutes that we have with you this evening, we want to briefly focus on three key areas. First, our current state, including strengths, resources, and needs of our students and our community partners. Second, we also want to provide just a brief overview of our still developing plans for the fall of 2022 and beyond. And third, a look at our next steps in strengthening, expanding, and aligning extended learning opportunities for students during the 22-23 school year and beyond. So every time I see this graphic, I immediately think of our former longtime literacy director, Sherry Miller. As you know, we have a long-standing foundational belief that literacy is a right and not a privilege. More than a logo and even a statement of belief, this is really, in many ways, a call to action. Every child has the right to read, and together, as a community, we must protect this right. So here to talk a little bit more on how we can strengthen our collective focus on this work, and even outside the typical school day, is one of our valued community partners, Ms. Kim Keith with the YMCA. Kim, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook and School Board and Superintendent Moore. It's our pleasure to be here tonight to share this update with you. Teachers and reading researchers generally agree that essential components of early elementary reading instruction should target phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. However, many educators and literacy experts have argued that reading fluency is commonly neglected as part of a student's core reading curriculum. In the United States, estimates suggest that at least 40% of fourth graders do not have strong enough reading fluency, and this is a primary barrier to students' proficiency with reading comprehension. Through the framework that we're proposing tonight, a partnership with the HELPS Education Fund will help address reading fluency as a need for our students. The HELPS Education Fund is a local nonprofit focused on promoting educational equity through collaborative partnerships. One of the programs that the HELPS Education Fund offers is the HELPS Intervention. HELPS stands for Helping Early Literacy with Practice Strategies. The HELPS Intervention works with one-on-one and small groups as an instructional program designed to improve students' reading, fluency, and their confidence. It's supported by rigorous research, appropriate for elementary school students as well as middle school students, is easy to access, is feasible to use, meaning it can be implemented by volunteers and lay people in the community as well as by educators. And it's also proven and an effective strategy that's been already implemented by many community partners and educators in the district. The main goals of HELPS are to strengthen a student's reading fluency and confidence as a reader. And as students improve their reading fluency, they are better able to focus on and improve other important reading skills, including comprehension. As we began this partnership conversation, we really wanted to take a look at the current state. Where are we starting from as we think about our future? We did a survey in the district, and here are some of the results of that survey. 53% of our elementary schools currently use the HELPS intervention. Intervention team facilitators and/or intervention teachers are predominantly the staff that use the HELPS intervention in our schools. 77.3% of those who responded to the survey are using HELPS in the one-on-one model, and 31.8% of them are using it in the small group intervention model. The YMCA and others have already been using the HELPS intervention with Wake County Public School students, the YMCA since 2019. Other community partners who are a part of Wake Up and Read, our community collaborative that is the local affiliate of the National Campaign for Grade Level Reading, have been using the HELPS intervention since early 2021. As part of our strategy, we need to connect and align programs and services, looking for connection and alignment across programs and seeking to identify opportunities for alignment. It's important that community partners and the district align our programs and services to find positive outcomes for students. This will allow student progress to be the primary focus of our work. As we strengthen the capacity of our tutors, students, and families, we will see positive academic and behavioral outcomes for our students. Again, the HELPS Education Fund and the HELPS Intervention are a critical part of this strategy. And our strategy will be to target students and tutors with the correct intervention for the gap we will be addressing. The HELPS Education Fund will allow us to support intervention for students in reading fluency. Our community partners, the HELPS Education Fund, and the district will target students in grades 2-5. Some of our considerations for implementation. As we're assessing our current capacity and building for the future, it will be important for our partnership to identify the focused population of students. Again, we'll focus on students in grades 2-5 that have a targeted need to focus on reading fluency. Additionally, we will want to align this work with other commitments and priorities within the district and the community agencies that are a part of this collaborative. We're currently assessing our current staffing. The district is assessing current usage, funding, and communication structures. One place we've chosen to begin this work is with schools and community partners that are already doing the work, who already have the infrastructure in place as a strong foundation for us to move forward. Professional learning will be provided for teachers, intervention facilitators, community partners, and volunteers. As we consider the process to scale this up to more students, schools, and partnerships, we will continue to assess where we are and where we are able to strategically grow, all while monitoring the positive impact on our students. In terms of our next steps, there will be ongoing communication and collaboration with the HELPS Education Fund and our community partners. We will identify schools and community partners who want to be a part of this effort. We'll establish criteria to systematically identify students, provide professional learning for Wake County Public School System staff and volunteers, as well as community partners. And we'll plan for data sharing to monitor student progress through data sharing agreements, which will allow us to monitor individual student progress. We're currently planning for a launch in September of 2022, but remember, this is the beginning of the work, and we intend to grow as we see our capacity grow. And I'll end with a call to action. This obviously sounds very ambitious for a launch in September of 2022, and there will be an opportunity for the community to support this work. Research identifies that high-dosage tutoring will positively impact student outcomes. In order to meet the needs of our Wake County students, we will need volunteers who are willing to commit to this work. Preferably, volunteers will work with students 1 or more times a week, which will allow them to build relationships and provide consistency and regularity to our students. Additionally, this work will be targeted to ensure that the right intervention is provided to students with the targeted area for growth, and that the volunteers in partnership with the schools will monitor that student growth. This will be an ongoing commitment for all of us to ensure better outcomes for our students. And I'd like to invite Tom Oxholm, community leader, to share his thoughts as well. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Chair Mahaffey and Superintendent Moore, board members. It's nice to be back here with you. It's been a long time. And first, let me thank all of you and the teachers and watching the senior staff for 27 months that have been terrible. And without your strength of character and commitment, especially at the school level, I don't know how we'd be as well off as we are, but we are damaged, as we are across the country. Some business leaders in Charlotte and I started talking in January about learning loss, and we couldn't understand why nobody was talking about it. We started pushing at the state level, at the various state leadership levels. And we quickly came to the conclusion that no one thinks this is a solvable problem. We're not educators. We see, significant learning loss, exhausted workforce. Those two won't work well together. We must go to the community, and we started pushing for involving trusted community partners. The answers we got back is, it's not doable. It's not doable. Superintendents, leaders said, we don't see how it's possible. I said, what about Wake County? They did say, if it could be done, it could be done in Wake County. Thought you all might like to hear that. Well, I went to most trusted community partner in Wake County that I was aware of, which is the YMCA of the Triangle area. And they're more than just Wake County. They're in 7 counties with 17 clubs. Doug McMillan and his organization are truly not just a YMCA. It is one of the best YMCA organizations in the country. And when in early March, I pushed Doug and said, can you help recruit thousands of tutors to help the thousands of children and teachers in Wake County who need you? He said, absolutely, we'll do it. No thinking required. When I talked to Superintendent Moore just a few days after that and said, the YMCA is ready to step forward, do you think your school system would accept a trusted partner to take some shared responsibility? She said, of course we can. With the YMCA, we can get anything done. We did also talk about other trusted community partners who could join in the YMCA. So it's not just the Y, but their leadership team is fantastic. So that sounds good, but there's a lot of details to be worked out. I can tell you, after being on the YMCA board for 4 years, they will do whatever it takes. And as a community representative, as a business person who still sees this as a problem that's solvable with a community that steps up to help our schools when asked. And it's happened in the past, but not to this level. The community is ready to help. We want it to be asked. And business people, retirees, church groups, everybody will say, I need to step up now. I've done nothing to help the community for 27 months. And this is the most important thing I can do. Nothing is more important to the future of Wake County than Wake County Public Schools. So thank you for putting your dedicated staff to work on it. Thanks to the Y and their leadership and the other groups that they'll be leading as they figure this out. And I can tell you one other thing. This isn't happening anywhere else in the country. We've been trying to find anywhere where they are going to turn to a community partner for assistance, and we can't find it anywhere. There's a lot of talk about learning loss, how to solve it with ESSER money, but what no one is talking about is this. So we're lucky to have the resources. We're lucky to have a board and a leadership that we have in Wake County. I'm optimistic that come September, I'll be tutoring in schools. Half of our office in Knightdale will be tutoring in schools, and we look forward to the opportunity of being of assistance. Thank you.
So thank you, Tom and Kim. And I'll just close before we open it up for board comment and feedback. We always run the risk of missing somebody, but I do want to just recognize some of the folks that have made the trip over this evening and have been very patient in their show of support. Among us here this evening, we've got Madison Reed from the Boys and Girls Club, LaToya Montague from Communities and Schools, Amber Simmons from Read and Feed, and in addition to Kim and Tom, we've got from the YMCA, Lisa Humphreys, Tony Campion, and also Doug McMillan. And if I've missed somebody, please forgive me. All right, thank you so much. So happy to hear any feedback, questions, comments the board may have.
Dr. Martin.
So thank you to everybody. I also want to just give a shout out to the HELPS program. The HELPS program was designed at NC State. Education psychology professor, John Begany. I've known John for quite a number of years. I met him years ago when I was working with the Park Scholars on exactly this issue. How do we deal with literacy education? He's done some outstanding research, and this HELPS program really works. It's not gimmicky. It's getting in there, building engagement, building fluency. So go Wolfpack. John, if you're out there listening, thanks. Good work.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter.
I was just going to share my appreciation as well, and then just also say I hope folks that are listening, we've heard from a lot of community members who've come and spoken who want to be involved. We've gotten emails from folks who want to be in schools and want to be helping, and I really hope they're on the lookout and for communications about how they can get involved with this, what sounds like a wonderful program, and I'm very excited to hear about another community partnerships, because I always applaud those. Thank you.
Ms. Cash.
You know how I feel about this program. I think it's wonderful, but thank you to this group of people and Tom Oxone for being the most persistent and the best board member we've ever had. And hopefully he'll be back on the board one day. And for the YMCA and all the partners and Drew I really appreciate you guys. This is just makes my heart smile for the partnership and our community leaders. We need this, and I'm so glad that Wake County is doing it in the first in the country. So, thank you.
Ms. Kushner?
Thank you, and I'll just add my accolades. Ms. Cash, you've been persistent focus on this, as well as Mr. Oxome and Doug, and to all the leaders at the Y and our partners. We are so, just to echo my colleagues, I do agree Wake County Public Schools is the critical group of in the Wake County to serve our children, and I appreciate the focus on the community coming together to serve our children and help us during this time. So thank you, Mr. Cook, for coordinating all this, and Superintendent Moore for your leadership. Very grateful.
Vice Chair Haggerty.
Thank you. I know we won't have all the answers tonight, but I do want to go back to Ms. Keith's comments about a call to action. Because obviously you can have a lot of wonderful ideas, but the key is action. And so I look forward to hearing what our next steps will be in terms of what we can do to get out, engage the community, recruit more volunteers, how we'll roll it out, build it up, scale it up, I think he said. But we all need to be active recruiters out there working with our community partners in the nonprofit sector in addition to the business sector. We need to be missionaries for this and just go out and find as many of the willing who are willing to join us in this effort. So please let us know what we can do. And Mr. Cook, if you and staff can continue to let us know, just as board members and individuals, everything else we can do to support the effort. Thank you.
Will do. Yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson-Hustler.
I echo my sentiments and great appreciation to all of you. Tom Oxome, you definitely have convinced me of two big initiatives since I've been on the board. So I guess I could say you and Roxy Cash probably can convince me of a whole lot is what this boils down to, Ms. Cash. But that speaks to, for me, and we talk about our students, as Ms. Scott just talked about Drea, but it's also the historical and institutional knowledge and love for this district from folks like Tom Oxome, who served on the board, Ms. Cash, who served and came back, Mr. Fletcher, who served and came back. Like, we really have an amazing commitment from community members who step up either back to the board or back to moving the board to the next phase of becoming an innovative school district. Like, we overuse the word, but this is an instance where I think it's necessary. We have been isolated as institutions for far, and I mean every institution, not just educational institution, but for far too long. Like, if we separate behavioral health from physical health, right, we as a country silo things, and I think what this does is, for me, hopefully speaks speaks volumes to our community, but also to our educators that you are not in this by yourself. It is okay to take a break and call this community to action to allow you the space to rejuvenate while we still commit to our students. The Y is an amazing partner. Again, back to Ms. Cash, who made it happen with childcare during COVID. This is just another example. So you might be our community liaison of literally of all times.
As long as Doug McMillan's there.
So Doug, I'll add you to the list. You can't do anything. I mean, I'm just saying, but truly it speaks to the commitment of this community and to rise up in the midst of the amount of turmoil, the bad press, the negativity. Our students hear and see that. So I hope the way that we talk about, and I appreciate the news put in the spotlight. Ms. Keith, I was tickled when you saw the news moving his camera to zoom in on you. But I hope that it gets just as much press as the things that speak negatively or have a negative impact to our district, that this is our district, as hard as it may be for a school system to give up some of its control over education. I think that this speaks volumes to who we are and to who we are and who we have the ability to be as a community. So thank you all for pushing and tugging and stretching us to grow. Because in the words of the public school system, you all love glows and grows, and I think the grows is going to help us glow. Like, this is going to stretch us, but I hope the community is watching this in a positive nature, because it is going to take all of us. And we all have to be ambassadors of our public school system, children or not. Mr. Oxholm has already laid down the challenge. His office in Nightdale will be volunteers, so all other business owners, please step up to the plate as well. Thank you all for your support and the willingness to really be stretched on this.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. And I process things like a couple of minutes slower, so I feel like these are the most amazing comments have been said. I wish I thought of my question immediately. But Ms. Keith, you remember when we met a few months, it seems like it was 3 weeks ago, or maybe it was 4 years ago, but it was that's how COVID time works. But we were talking about the literacy deserts. And so one of the things I'm hopeful for is we recognize that there are parts of our community that have a high need for literacy supports. Also might be the same communities that may not have the resources and time to volunteer. And I know we have great Go Triangle. We have, there's just the limitless possibilities to try to bring tutors and volunteers to those communities. And yes, and in Nightdale and in Zebulon, we have some pretty big places there that hopefully will help out with this. But thank you so much. This is to know how hard many people on this board have worked and just continuing to support private, public partnerships with the school system, and Superintendent Moore, for your willingness to make that happen. And thank you so much to our community leaders for serving our kiddos. Thank you.
I'll provide just a couple of closing comments. I think one of the things that's really important to note is that the folks that are here with us tonight and that we're talking about partnering with us and helping ramp this up already have presence and support in our schools. Whether you're looking at Read and Feed or CIS or the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA, they already have presence and support, after school support and programming for our kids. And to provide an opportunity to align around the work that we do and target some of the population that has needs, and a consistent structured program that actually meets the point of needs for those kids is incredibly important. And I'm not going to diminish the kind of training that it's going to take and the time and that work that's going to have to happen in order to accomplish this, but it is one of the really most exciting things that I've been able to talk about and be a part of. I talked about it some really at the beginning of this school year without really having a mindset about what that could look like. And I'm just glad to see that other people were thinking about it as well, and that we're able to come together, because I do think that if there is any place in North Carolina that can do this, it is certainly Wake. And I'm proud to have the partnerships with the organizations. All of you are really close to what we do and how we support students, and I'm just excited about the work moving forward with you. So thank you.
And we know that this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. This recovery doesn't happen overnight. And our educators have been doing the work and will be continuing to do the work. But if I'm going to continue with metaphors, it takes a village. And so thank you all for being a part of this village and stepping up in ways of these past few years that we didn't know we needed you. And I just want to thank you all for continuing to be partners in this work for our students. And my only question is, when will people know that they can sign up?
To be determined.
All right, we will make sure.
So we're and part of
I
what we're
know.
doing, Ms. Mahaffey, is we're speaking this into existence, right? And I
Yeah.
think part of the premise here is to mobilize and generate the energy, and obviously a key next step for us is going to be how and where and when and whom we're able to harness that energy. So I think more to come, and we will be back with additional updates and information to the board, and certainly be sending out communications to the community through our schools and through the district as well in the weeks ahead.
Thank you so much. Sincerely appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing this work. And speaking of updates, it's time for the superintendent's updates. So thank you.
I'm just providing some updates from our work session today for those who were unable to listen or be here at that time. We covered a number of items in the work session today, beginning with continued work with our board members on the strategic plan. We came with some updates to our core beliefs, including some added language around well-being and student agency in core belief 4, a new core belief 7 that addresses some areas that the board members and staff and others had expressed were sort of missing from our core beliefs in the prior strategic plan. We also then moved into looking at strategic priorities for student outcomes, and that really came from the feedback that was garnered from the thought exchange with thousands of people in our community, our teachers, even students engaged in this work, and narrowed down the areas of interest to 3 areas in terms of desired student outcomes and how we might move forward with those. We then also moved into talking about goals and whether we keep one goal or move into maybe multiple goals, look at grade levels and those kinds of things. So we appreciate the board feedback today so that we can bring back additional information. It looks like we are going to look at more than just one graduation goal. And I think also the last part of our work session on the strategic plan item was really talking about what we called essential conditions, which then someone called maybe pillars, that would be the kinds of things that need to be in place in order to achieve the outcomes. And so there's a lot of aspirational language that we're looking at right now, which is really good at the overarching frame of that. But our work to continue with the board that will come next will be explaining how those sort of aspirational goals, beliefs, and whether they are essential conditions or pillars will then filter directly into the work that schools do or operational staff are engaged in, and so that our community as well can understand and hold us accountable for what we put in the strategic plan. The second area that we talked about really was the summer programming, our summer learning update. Last year we had a lot more legislated requirements around what we needed to do in the summer. We've scaled back to the things that we do with a little bit more intense focus on the populations with the Read to Achieve that we're required to do, the high school credit recovery, some CTE accelerator programs, and so we just went over the opportunities that our students will have. The next item was additional work on the AIG plan. Well, actually, that was a deferred item, I believe. The AIG plan that we have to submit every 3 years to DPI. We went through that information with the board. We will be submitting it to DPI by the July 15th deadline, so we will likely be bringing that back to the board for approval at your next board meeting. And that was one of your attachments as well. So that really the presentation was to give you what you needed so that when you read the actual plan itself, it'll make sense. And then the last item that we talked about in work session was the comprehensive plan for equitable discipline practices. We took a little bit different approach to our work and our data reporting around student discipline, which we actually didn't get to today. It will be deferred to the next work session. But we front-loaded that work today by really talking about the connection in the other areas, academics, student support services, Office of Equity Affairs, the people who need to collaborate to ensure that our discipline data looks differently, because it's not just about consequences. It's restorative practices, rehab. It's about learning different tools. It's about respecting each other and making sure that no student checks their identity at the door in order to access high levels of teaching and learning. So all of that work, it was important that you hear from the different groups that support that as a front load to what we look at in the discipline data so that you have an understanding of how it is comprehensively addressed in a district. And since we didn't finish that presentation, we will bring back the actual data that goes with it at the next work session. And that was our work session.
Thank you. We now move on to public comment. Public comment is accepted in video, written, and in-person formats. Members of the public are welcome to offer comments or criticism directed at substantive ideas, actions, or procedures of the board and individual board members. The laws and policies of North Carolina provide that issues or concerns involving individual personnel matters are confidential and therefore not appropriate for public comment settings. Concerns related to personnel issues may be addressed through the applicable WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. Those offering comments to the board, including students, may discuss items and matters of general concern, but should refrain from discussing confidential student information. Concerns related to confidential student matters may be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. We have 13 written comments from members of the public. Their comments are linked on the same online agenda we are using for tonight's meeting. That agenda, as well as guidance for those wishing to submit comments for future meetings, can be found at the school district's website, wcpss.net, under the tab labeled School Board. We have 5 comments on support of LGBTQ inclusive classrooms, 4 comments about Election Day, 1 about board meeting decorum, 1 on transportation, 1 on COVID-19 response, and 1 on gun violence. For those of you that are here to offer public comment in person, you may speak for up to 3 minutes. A yellow light at the podium will illuminate when there are 30 seconds remaining in your time, and a red light will signal that your time is up. In the interest of maintaining civility and decorum, however, speakers are encouraged to address their comments to the Board of Education and refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, or members of the general public. Please remain at the podium during your speaking time. Any materials you wish to share with the board should be handed to Mr. Ramey, our board attorney, either before or after your comments. Our first speaker tonight is Susan Book.
Hello, my name is Susan Book. I'm a Wake County parent. All students have the right to feel safe at school. I realize there are so many external forces that we can never truly defend against. However, we have the power at Wake County Public Schools to control lots of internal forces. Every child should feel loved and accepted when they enter a bus or walk through the threshold of a school. They should feel affirmed and know that they are worthy of love and respect. This, to me, is what school safety is all about. It is knowing that there is someone in that building that is safe to talk to without judgment or critique. When tragedy strikes, our schools have a tendency to harden, to put the burden of school safety on children, to police them more, to monitor them more, to judge them more. I'm asking you to do the opposite as we move forward. I want you all to love them more, to police them less, to trust them more. Students don't perform well when they're afraid. They don't learn when they don't feel safe. So let's make a school that supports all our children. Let our children see more rainbows, not less. Let them see art that reflects all types of families. Let children feel affirmed in their culture every day. Let children express themselves in all the languages they know. Embrace diversity. Embrace neurodiversity. I want to see more positive calm down spaces and less secluded scary places. Will all that protect our school against an armed gunman? No, but that is far beyond the capacity of Wake County Public School Board. I hope everyone is doing what we can to change safety on a national and state level. What we can do at this level is nurture children. Don't dismiss emotional well-being from our curriculum. Fear doesn't help any student become a better student. A well-regulated mind and body, however, indeed help all our students learn. A student who sees themselves reflected in the faculty, the leadership, and the curriculum feels a sense of belonging. When we feed our hearts, we feed our minds as well. I know we're trying in Wake County Public Schools. I'm asking us to prioritize. Despite the noise and the hate directed at so many innocent student souls, we need more programs that affirm our students. We need less police in the hallways that seek only to intimidate and arrest. We can put better people in our hallways that seek only to assist and affirm. That is what Wake County Public Schools can do to make schools safer. We can simply make our schools a wonderful place to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Becky Lou Hobbs.
A little bit taller here. Hello, I'm back again. As you're aware, I have been a longtime resident of District 4, and I've had kids in the school system in District 4 for 10 years now. Last board meeting, I was attended once again to provide public comment that is both legally protected and constitutionally guaranteed. And I was a little bit disappointed in the behavior of the board at that meeting. Because during that meeting, the board allowed a constituent to address other constituents and not the board for 2 minutes before they intervened. I understand that can happen, but it shouldn't have been allowed to have happened as long as it did. And during this 2 minutes, the board allowed this constituent to make several derogatory statements, such as selfish and despicable, and made statements suggesting that parents do not have the right to protect and advocate for their children. I will remind you, my child is my child, and this education system is part of their constitutional right, but it does not give you the right to raise my child. So once again, I'll state I was very disappointed of the behavior of this board that you allowed it, and it's not the first time that something like that has happened. But it does highlight that there are many things that people in the system do not agree on. But I do believe there is something that we can agree on, that we are concerned about our kids and our education, and particularly the learning loss that have occurred over the past 2 years. And we are concerned about the safety of our children. Now, in regards to the learning loss, we've been over this before of the declining scores. You know, the math, 79% not proficient. There's so much to be done. The presentation was interesting, to say the least. But, you know, I've been part of a group that tried to assist a school. And the thing was, is when COVID came, we were no longer allowed in the schools to help at all. Not as a parent, not with the place I was with. And here you are touting another organization to do it. So I'm excited that they're there, but at the same time, we've tried this before and you guys haven't let us do this. And in regards to safety, it was mentioned about the audit. I look forward to going to see that. But where are we going to get the funds? So might I suggest that trim some of the fat? You have something else on the agenda tonight from K-12 Insight, and that's been in place for 5 years, and it has not improved communication like it's supposed to. It has not been streamlining virtual learning or anything. I suggest you get rid of that because we spent $1 million in the past 5 years on it and direct those funds to help our kids stay safe. Learning loss is real. Test scores have declined. Let's use money to protect our kids and not pet projects. Focus on providing quality education. They're our children and our future.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jimmy Riles.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me come address tonight. My name is Jimmy Riles. I'm a father of 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old who's finishing 2nd grade right now and 2 rising kindergartners. And I'm here because I'm really dismayed at the way that politicians have been using our schools to target gay and lesbian and transgender kids. Being a kid is really hard. Being a teacher is really hard. And doing either of those things while lawmakers are scapegoating you must be impossible. Because of the way our society treats them, LGBTQ kids are already more likely than others to struggle with mental illness and even to attempt suicide. There are studies showing that they're 33% more likely to harm themselves if they don't feel affirmed in their school settings. And I want to repeat, that risk is not higher because of who those kids are. It is because of the way that we treat them. Delaying acknowledgement of the range of gender identities and sexual orientations in these early years, the way that House Bill 755 does, misses the window when kids learn who deserves respect and who deserves acceptance. Already, my second graders' classmates are using the word gay as an insult. They're saying, that's gay, you're gay, he's gay, she's gay, as though there's something wrong with that. This is a thing they learn early. I know that you don't have any control over the legislature. But I also know that it's more important right now than it ever has been for the school system to show its support for kids and educators who are gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender. This state seems to be turning its back on them, and the schools cannot do that. I want to challenge you and school administrators to do more for these kids, to resist banning books that honestly show LGBTQ lives, to support LGBTQ student groups loudly, full-heartedly. Don't reflexively cave to witch hunts like the one at Valentine Elementary School. Give these kids what they deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is L. Prince.
Hi, thanks for allowing us to be here tonight and share a commentary. My name is Elle Prince. I live in Cary. I'm a parent of queer and transgender teens who attend Enloe High School, who keep texting me because they know I'm speaking right now. It keeps popping up over my screen. I'm a lifelong resident of the greater Raleigh area, and I went through K through 12 here in Wake County Public Schools myself. I was deeply disturbed by the recent resignation of a teacher who was the victim of backlash simply for doing her job in an inclusive manner with inclusive educational materials that merely reflect the families and the lived experiences of countless Wake County students. Many are concerned about the chilling effect that this has had and will continue to have on Wake County Public School System employees who wish to be inclusive and supportive, if the board does not seize this opportunity to level set the position of this district. I'm here on behalf of queer parents, trans parents, and queer and trans students to ask Wake County Public School System to move from a school system which has been quietly supportive to one that sets the tone that other systems in this state can follow. Our kids need us right now more than ever. Queer kids are under attack nationwide. In 2022 alone, across 28 states, an astounding 300-plus bills were introduced attacking the freedoms of LGBT people. More than half of those targeted queer youth. The board needs to be crystal clear with its employees that the legislation introduced in our state has not passed, is unlikely to pass, and regardless, that our responsibility to our kids has not changed. With our kids trying to survive in such an environment, Wake County Public Schools can do its part to educate the children in our district that they are valued and accepted for who they are by acknowledging their existence and teaching their history. It's time for Wake County Public School Systems to deliver a clear, consistent message across the entire district to school administrators, school counselors, educators, and students that our schools serve to support all families, including LGBTQIA and gender-diverse students, parents, families, and educators. This would include clear communication from the board that not only does this district accept and support, but that it expects the acknowledgement in classrooms and school newsletters of current events. These are things such as International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, National Coming Out Day, Intersex Awareness Day, Asexuality Awareness Day. I hope that one day we'll see in this district education and commemoration of World AIDS Day in our health classrooms, introduction to the history of the AIDS crisis in America in our American history lessons, During my time in Wake County Public Schools, learning about these events was unheard of. Today, we're fortunate in this district. We have employees who can share this important information with our students. We have educators who are safe zone trainers. We have many who are out and proud members of the community.
Your time is up.
Sorry, just to finish up. Please use the power that you have to make children and families in our county feel valued and seen by communicating with all Wake County school system public employees.
Ms. Prince.
Sure.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Amanda Lunn.
This ain't shit. This don't scare me. These were the words from a 12-ish-year-old girl talking to her about 8-ish-year-old brother. They were standing behind my 12-year-old daughter and I, waiting for a roller coaster at Busch Gardens Saturday. The language was harsh. It made me uncomfortable, especially being around my daughter. I was contemplating saying something, but as I listened, I noticed her voice and the words she was using sounded just like the main character in The Hate U Give, a frequently banned book. While she was posturing really hard in regards to the roller coaster, I could hear the potential trauma that she has had to endure in her life. Trauma that I have been fortunate to keep away from my daughter. As I pondered things that may scare a child more than a roller coaster, I couldn't help but to think of Uvalde, where children body painted themselves with their classmates' blood simply to survive. I've also been listening to Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison. While many get stuck on the language and the sexual content, I was listening for the value. The main character states, "The library was the most stable thing in the world. At the library, a kid had a chance. What I wanted was a book, something plain spoken, a book that talked about the disenfranchised with realism and grit. Where were the books with characters like me? While I might find some of these books harsh in their own ways, they speak of various voices, perspectives, and experiences that may be all too true for students in our district. Children deserve to have the opportunity to hear their own voices and situations reflected back. It's also important for them to hear situations that don't resonate. Why? Because it helps their critical thinking skills in determining for themselves who they actually are, who they want to be, and what makes them them. There is no better life skill that we can teach our youth than that. Children deserve to be supported and encouraged to be themselves. Some have spoken towards the trauma of simple face masks while spewing hate and untruths about people like me they seem to miss some of the real issues facing our children and our youth, like lockdowns, a lack of equitable representation, and grown adults calling anything that even hints at the LGBTQIA+ community inappropriate. This leads to higher rates of suicide and homelessness. We need more inclusive curriculum as well as more curriculum speaking towards mental health like we do physical health. And we need to really support our teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Lunn. Our next speaker is Lana Witt. Ms. Witt?
Good thing for friends who nudge you. Thank you. Good evening, board members. I see a number of faces who plan to run for re-election. After hearing board members over a year now, you must not be too frightened of COVID nor leadership you've offered. I continue to wonder what your greatest fear is as a community leader. And sadly, we all know fear motivates voters. I wonder what platform you'll present to the community in 2022. Who will you be accountable to? Will your priorities echo the ones from your 2020 election? Will you continue to endorse teaching colors on flashcards to preschool students ages 3 and 4 while simultaneously introducing age-inappropriate content like the concept of a pregnant man, as happened at Ballantyne Elementary in Chair Mahaffey's District 8? Or labeling concerned community members book banners when they request guardian notification or consent before introducing masturbation and same-gender intercourse to elementary-age students through accessible library books? As an educator in various countries, I'm not afraid of the world. I am concerned with the direction of our county public school culture. Do you equally protect all families? LGBTQIA, those from traditional, blended, and mixed nationalities like mine? What's happened to majority rule and minority rights, which includes even families who sense a lack of recognition and respect for traditional male-female roles and the idea of an age of innocence? Inclusion and promotion for the sake of exploiting and benefiting some while excluding others are not the same. Instead of proclaiming yourselves moral and medical professionals, maybe you'll finally begin to address the learning loss that so many concerned Wake County parents have brought to you bi-monthly over the past 2 years. Hopefully you'll address actual academic instruction like age-appropriate science that men don't easily carry a baby, men don't easily transition to female appearance, nor women easily to men. Or maybe your priority will focus on reading and math involved in actual fatality rates from COVID for ages 0 to 18 in Wake County compared to prior COVID death rates in our community. Will you address increased suicide rates following this board's unanimously forced desensitization, depersonalization, and dehumanization of classmates and educators by the policies pushed by curriculum and policies like ABC Science Collaborative, who didn't allow for mask exemptions and encouraged peers not to eat near one another, nor see one another's expressions in spite of proven limited transmission rates of COVID? Most around this table walk in lockstep with our governor. On January 18th, 2022, even our governor recognized the importance of parental choice in education by proclaiming it National School Choice Week. You can't escape the legacy of your years of re-education and a decade ahead of us in remediating the damage to our community. Even Paul Coe admitted as a priority for 2-year-olds regarding training them to wear masks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nathaniel Dibble.
Good evening. Last time I saw you guys, we talked about the Tops grocery store in Buffalo, and this time we are talking about an elementary school in Uvalde. I'd like to thank all of you, especially you, Dr. Martin, for addressing the things that led up to Uvalde. We've listened to your words tonight, and as community members and as students, we look forward to seeing that you turn your words into action, and that, not only to protect the physical security of our schools, but also the mental security of our students' minds. Now, while the details of Uvalde were still unfolding, our state legislature was doing their best to protect our elementary school students, not from guns or bullets, but from things they deem more important than that. House Bill 755 is North Carolina's Don't Say Gay bill. As I'm sure you're aware, it proposes that no mention of sexual orientation or gender identity should be allowed in any classroom from kindergarten to 3rd grade. And furthermore, it says that should a student bring up those topics in the classroom, that a teacher needs to report those students and out them to their family because the student mistakenly decided that their classroom was a safe place. There's no way around it. This is state-sanctioned bigotry. We've seen it with HB 2, and we're seeing it again with this bill. Education is meant to prepare students for the world. I think we can all agree on that. And a cornerstone of that premise is culturally relevant education. That's the reason why we teach civil rights figures in schools, and that's the reason why we teach cultural identities in schools. And that's the reason why our education has adapted over time. Now, it is long past time that we begin teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity in our schools as well. If you take what I'm saying to spaces outside of this, it is my belief that you can make my voice heard or your voices heard in places that otherwise they wouldn't be able to be heard. And in the meantime, board members, you do have a chance to have a direct hand in change in policy in this county. You have the chance to make this county a shining example of acceptance across the state. You have the chance to create progressive policies that your students can use as a stepping stone to success. And you have the power to create policies that other counties can use as a template to help their own students. You have the power to fulfill the promise of a safe classroom for your students. Students like me are willing to speak out about what we need, but we do need people like you to listen to us. A broader trend of change starts with you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carrie Bly.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. This is our third history speech to you, although I decided not to use props. I hope I gave them a paper to give to you. This one is more about the current events of math curriculum. Pete and I do not come to this podium until we exhausted every avenue at our own schools to get resources. And we're not at 500 parent-teacher conferences all year because we already know that our teachers can't hand over resources to our children that you don't give them. They can't give our kids what they don't have. And Pete and I are kind of pray to God but row to the shore kind of people. And this speech is about what I've found in the math curriculum world that we've tried to get help with. The number one things people say to us when we commiserate about our kids having troubles learning math in middle and high school is if you can't afford tutoring, you're going to have to find a textbook and teach them yourself. And we have tried. And that's easier said than done, as we've often spoke of the changes to standards and sequencing that swept the math resource table clear 12 years ago. And that's narrowed the playing field astronomically. And when you break down an entire institution, you leave ample room for profiteers to swoop in. You create a problem, and then they sell back the solution. And they haven't sold you back half of that solution. Math curriculum companies are privately funded now, and they're created, they change their names, they change hands, they get bought and swallowed up by other companies. If a math curriculum gets a bad rep, it seems you can just change the name, the community forgets, and one might actually argue that NCDPI selected Open Up Resources for you in 2012 when they were one of 13 states to partner with a company called K-12 OER Collaborative that changed their name to Open Up Resources and came to our table. The state of math is like the wild, wild west. The MVP version that you have today as your district-provided math curriculum no longer exists. It has now been swallowed up by Open Up Resources and is called Open Up Resources High School Math. But it is the exact same modules. There's a great article I gave you last time entitled, Why is Everyone Providing the Same OER Math Curriculum? And today I handed you a graph of the most popular math curriculums adopted by school districts today. You should instantly see the monopoly and stagnant nature of those curriculum options. That was what you could look for if you did what I wanted. Get rid of MVP, get rid of Open Up Resources. You have one option on that paper. 5 of them use the exact same middle school math modules and questions. There's no variety. Pete and I haven't been standing up here telling you that this math curriculum is deficient without a reason. There's a reason, and there aren't many options, and we've been asking you to help us fill those gaps as a district. It doesn't matter which curriculum you choose on that page. They're all going to not show visual learning material for children that need that.
Thank you, Ms. Bly. Our next speaker is Jim Walsh. Jim Walsh. Okay. Jackie Milazzo.
I could probably just say ditto, Dr. Martin. Good evening. My name is Jackie Milazzo, and I am the mom of 2 amazing and autistic children in Wake County Public Schools, one at Holly Grove and one at preschool at Ballantyne. I proudly support our public schools, teachers, and school board members who support inclusivity. My son's preschool class was unfortunately in the news recently for decorations deemed inappropriate by our school system. The decorations in my child's art center included families of diverse races, ages, sexualities, genders, and abilities. The teacher's actions to include these images follows one of the core beliefs of Wake County Public Schools, which states, "The Board of Education, Superintendent, and all staff value a diverse school community that is inviting, respectful, inclusive, flexible, and supportive." By removing the pictures and calling them inappropriate, the school system failed to uphold one of its core beliefs, and the person or persons who made this decision should be held accountable. The parents and children in this special education classroom were failed when the school system would not stand against the homophobic request to remove these images. We were failed when they decided to not inform us that they removed these pictures from our child's class months ago. We were failed when the school system showed a lack of public support for our preschool teacher when this issue made national news, all of which ultimately led to our incredible preschool teacher resigning and not ending the school year with our children. As our teachers are required and evaluated on embracing diversity in the classroom, I struggle to understand the decision to remove these pictures. I do not need to tell you about the teacher shortage we're facing, especially special education teachers. Who would want to work in a school system where it appears any parent complaint, warranted or not, will have the school system bending over backwards to appease them for fear of negative publicity? If a parent has an issue with these images, that is their business. But it doesn't change facts that families and persons who look like these images exist in our communities and schools, and they have every right to see themselves in their classrooms. By removing these cards, the message is sent that differences in all of us are not okay. Every child deserves to see in their classroom that the differences between us are accepted and not scary or wrong. Please ensure that this representation continues to happen. Support our teachers when they create an inclusive classroom, and do not give more power to the hate-filled voices. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kimberly Pope.
Hi there. My name is Kim Pope. I'm a Wake County parent of 6-year-old twin boys. I'm here to ask the board to please consider installing door barriers in all Wake County public schools. I've chosen to speak in person because the emails that I sent to the board on May 28th have gone unanswered. I've also reached out to our Deputy Director, Fire Marshal Braxton Tanner, Superintendent Kathy Moore, the Wake County Sheriff's Office, my school's PTA president, and our principal. We as parents want the last line of defense to be the best line of defense. That's the classroom door. While security cameras and on-site resource officers are very much needed, we need more than locked doors that can be breached. We want our children and teachers to be assured that they are safe when the classroom door closes. I've done my research on the best solutions for door locking systems, and I want to recommend the board look into RhinoWare lockdown systems from Campus Safety Solutions. The company is located in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and the product is manufactured right here in Knightdale. They've installed units in other school systems across the nation, and locally they're in Iredell County, East Wake Academy, and several others currently in process. I have no affiliation with this company other than what I've researched and conversations I've had with corporate personnel. This system is an ADA-compliant, military-grade, active threat lockdown solution. It's installed at Fort Knox. The Navy was so impressed after seeing a break test that they recommended this device be in every naval facility in the world. It's the only lockdown system that is fire marshal approved for single motion egress. It can be operated by an adult or a child in 1 second to gain safe haven in a moment's notice. It can be unlocked from the outside using a custom key assigned to school administration. It can be engaged every time class starts and all day to provide security and peace of mind. Using a Wi-Fi signal installed at the bottom of the device, it has the ability to be connected to existing security system software. It can resist any effort to breach the door, short of breaking the surrounding structure, therefore buying valuable time for law enforcement to help. Using this lockdown system will make the classroom a safe haven where students and teachers can relax and be more assured of their safety and security. Recently, a petition has been started across Wake County. We have over 500 signatures in support of this device so far. In closing, I ask you to look into the RhinoWare lockdown system as it provides the level of protection our children and teachers deserve. I look forward to your response, and I look forward to continuing this conversation offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. Our next speaker is Janae Mobley.
Good evening. My name is Janae Mobley, and I'm a proud mother of 2 Ballantine Elementary Fireflies in Fuquay-Varina, District 2. And that is where I want to start, Ballantine Elementary. We've been part of the school community now for 5 years and counting, and what an amazing and loving community it is. We are fortunate that every year, without fail, we have had wonderful teachers lead and inspire our girls to work hard, dream big, be it in virtual classroom or in person. When I asked my rising 2nd and 5th graders what they loved most about their school, without hesitation, I was told it was the teachers and the school spirit proudly on display. And it's not just the teachers. Our school administrators, staff, and parent volunteers all work together focused on one goal, to build a safe and inclusive environment where all of our kids can learn, grow, and glow. For all Fireflies, glow means to give and earn respect, lead by example, own your actions, and work hard every day. If only everyone could embody these traits. As this board is all too aware, working in public education in any capacity is a true labor of love, particularly in this state and in this politically charged and polarizing environment. But that's where we are today. Because of this environment, we are hurting the ones we claim to love the most, our kids. Our school was tossed into the international spotlight over a drawing of a same-sex couple expecting a child. That's it. A loving couple expecting a child used as part of an art display weeks ago intended to show that families come in all ages, shapes, sizes, and colors, just like our very own school community. Hardly inappropriate. We should be celebrating this pre-K teacher who's been praised by the actual parents in the classroom for the incredible work she has done to help their kids thrive, many with special needs. Instead, this teacher felt forced to resign, with our kids the ultimate victims, as they have lost, as well as our community, a beloved and incredible teacher. As a parent, I believe we need to both normalize and celebrate our diversity. Kids that learn this at an early age develop a stronger tolerance and acceptance of others, fostering friendship, kindness, and empathy, all traits we need more of in this world. And we need to do whatever it takes to hold on to teachers and school administrators that do just that. It is still unclear to me if the concerned constituent is even a part of our community or has kids in school at all. After all, a question about curriculum or resources in a classroom is typically addressed by the school or even the Board of Education, not a House representative. Nevertheless, this unknown individual appears to be just another actor in the political theater that is playing out across our country, searching for problems to fit an agenda instead of solving the ones that are staring us in the face. Let's talk about those issues, real issues facing Wake County and public schools across North Carolina: school funding, teacher pay, school safety, facility maintenance and upgrades to improve indoor air quality, food insecurity and school nutrition, lack of nurses, bus drivers, counselors, support staff, and moving our state from an embarrassing ranking of 33rd overall in education. That's where all of you come in. I truly appreciate all the work and self-sacrifice of each board member that you have made. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Layla Haddad.
Hi, my name is Layla. I'm 9 years old and I go to Washington Elementary School in Raleigh. I am in the 3rd grade, and one of the things I love about my school is how diverse it is. I have classmates from all over the world, including India, Venezuela, Mexico, and Japan, as well as different types of families. I also love how much you have fun and also get to learn a lot. My class gets to talk about what their culture is like. In India, for example, people get to do this thing called Holi and throw color bombs up in the air to make everybody colorful. I learn so much every day. My teacher helps us learn by making school fun. I'm so happy to be back to school in person. Being in virtual school was hard, but our teachers were kind and helpful, even though school was on a screen. Now our teachers have worked so hard to help us catch up, even the students who are struggling to learn. I also love being in the band at my school. I love playing saxophone, and my band teacher helped me and guided me all the way through. One of my favorite activities is that I got to do this thing like show and tell, but big kid version called Sharebox. During Sharebox time, I got to bring this book to school every day and let other people read the book, which was called Black Heroes by Arlisha Norwood. It was really fun listening to stories of Black people who made a difference. We learned about people like Martin Luther King Jr. and Jackie Robinson. Learning about these heroes made me realize that I can make a difference. Even though I'm a kid, my schools have taught me that I can have an impact. I hope that our schools continue to teach us about different people and different cultures. Teaching us about diversity is so important, and I'm glad that my school thinks diversity is something we should all learn about. It's also great that my school welcomes students from all different types of families and cultures. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Thank you, Layla, and thank you for telling us the incredible things that are happening at Washington Elementary. Our next speaker is Tracy Taylor.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Moore. Tonight at the board table, a board member said that students are trying to figure out how to move on from COVID. Wake County private schools students, as well as students in other states that opened in the fall of 2020, figured it out. Today is day 814 of the governor's state of emergency. It's all about the money, right? No? One of the board members said tonight, we shouldn't wait for a crisis to make these investments. On June 10th, 2021, there's this from the governor.
How long the state of emergency needs to continue?
Oh, sure. The state of emergency needs to continue. We need to continue to draw down federal funds. We need to continue.
Yes, it is all about the money. Never has it been about the students' and teachers' success. With 20 to 30% proficiency in reading and math, your investments have not produced a positive return of investment and require greater scrutiny versus asking for more money. Spending per pupil is not equal across the board, which would be okay if student outcomes and proficiency were higher. For example, in 2020, Mills Park Middle School students got $76.48 per student. West Cary Middle School, $7,509. Bug Elementary, $13,995. Powell Elementary School, $13,739. How much money will it take for students to have academic success? $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 per pupil? Meanwhile, from 2011 to 2020, elementary student teachers staff increased only by 1%. Other professionals increased by 189%, and central office staff increased by 56%. You want more money from the state and Wake County. You and the Board of Commissioners want to and have been increasing taxes so students can succeed, yet you turn around and become more top-heavy and pay an attorney to litigate against parents while teachers and students are an afterthought. Parents are tired of the lies and lack of full disclosure. We were told that medical mask exemptions would be honored. They were not. You tell your COVID stats and you don't give full disclosure. And you also don't know what you're talking about. You didn't even know what pooled testing was. Your hubris is deafening.
Our next speaker is Pete Bly.
Hi. First I want to start off by saying I do applaud y'all for noticing that there was an issue, apparently taking a very long time to lobby and advocate for that issue, and put together a nice outside-of-the-box way to try and solve that issue with everything we heard earlier with helps. What confuses me a bit is that we're only looking at reading with that, and I don't see any of that same thing going on with math. Yet earlier today in your work meeting, you showed a slide that had 3 columns about math, 1 about English, 1 that had math and English together, talking about the loss, the learning loss that has happened in AIG. And the math ones were worse than the English ones. So why is it so hard to think that maybe we're still having an issue with the curriculum in math as well? You can talk about learning loss with COVID. You've talked about how we need to hold the kids accountable. Why is it so difficult to think that maybe one of those factors might actually be the curriculum itself? And why are you so strongly against trying to work towards looking at data that may help show that? I've spent 3 years coming up here. I'm missing my playoff hockey game right now because I am here listening or trying to talk to y'all about all of this, and I hear all the applause and everything going on, and I wish they were still here because I would love to turn to the community and say, yes, we need your help in math also. Because unlike in English, where apparently we have resources to go, I've got to either take out a large car or a small house loan to put both of my kids through tutoring monthly to help them get through the basic math curriculum that you have right now. That's not learning loss. By the way, just a little thing on that learning loss word. Learning loss means that you had it in the first place and you're losing it. But we're not identifying when they don't have it at all. So it's easy to sit behind COVID and say that COVID caused all of the problems that we have. But I'd be willing to bet you've been talking about the reading thing for longer than just COVID because of the amount of people that you thanked and how much effort they've put in over the years to come here and advocate for it. This is an issue. And as Carrie told you, who is much smarter than I on all of this stuff, it's an issue you've painted yourselves into a corner on. Because now you literally have one other program you could look at to be able to help out. Instead of trying so blindly to tell me why this is so good, can we at least look at the option or look at the data objectively to see if maybe that is one of the multiple issues that could be affecting our kids right now and why they're having so much trouble in math? Because dropping from the 90s to 22% isn't just because some kids didn't take the EOG. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brad Martin. Brad Martin.
Greetings, Wake County Board of Educators, staff, and administrators. My name is Brad Martin, and I'm with K-12 Computers. Our organization helps school districts across the nation maximize the value of their IT surplus. On average, our organization increases school districts' IT surplus revenue by 200 to 300%, making our organization, K-12 Computers, the highest paying company in the nation for IT surplus. Exactly how we're able to increase the revenue for our school districts is when the devices are outdated, we send Gaylords and boxes to your school's warehouse. The outdated devices are placed in our boxes. Once full, we transport the devices to our warehouse in Lexington, North Carolina. Our team then categorizes by grade level each device, deletes the data, and repairs the broken computers to increase the value. Each device is entered into a serialized audit report accompanied with a data deletion certificate. Afterwards, the devices are repaired. They go to an electronic reseller platform to get the market value bids on the school's equipment. We have a transparent, honest process, and we keep you updated every step of the way. For example, we have been servicing Guilford County schools since January. Last year, their total revenue for their IT surplus was $90,000. Their current payout to date with us, K-12 Computers, is at $150,000. Projecting to hit $300,000 by the end of the year, which is an increase in revenue of more than 300%. With the added funds, it can go to the security of the children or to the staff, the administration, the school bus drivers, wherever it sees fit for the school districts. So once again, my name is Brad. I'm with K-12 Computers, and we're really looking forward to helping your school district in any way we can. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Christina Spears.
Good evening, Chair Mahaffey, Vice Chair Hagerty, board members, Superintendent Moore, and district staff. I'm Christina Spears, Wake NCAE Vice President and President-elect, currently serving as coordinating teacher in the Office of Equity Affairs. Happy Pride Month. I'm disappointed in the lack of comments recognizing the importance of Pride Month amid the news from Ballantyne Elementary mentioned by Dr. Martin and the climate Ms. Scott described for our LGBTQ students in schools. Pride Month is an opportunity for us both to recognize the struggles and injustices faced by queer folks and celebrate and affirm their gender and sexual identities. Core Belief 2 says every student is expected to learn, grow, and succeed, while we will eliminate the ability to predict achievement based on social and cultural factors like gender and sexual orientation. A recent survey by GLSEN showed that 86% of LGBTQ students are harassed or assaulted at school based on personal characteristics like gender and sexual orientation. How might our queer students learn, grow, and succeed in environments when they are more likely to experience harassment and assault than their cisgender heterosexual peers? The answer lies in core belief number 5, where we say we value a diverse school community that is inviting, respectful, inclusive, flexible, and supportive. I'm proud to work in this school district that has core beliefs that acknowledges and affirms the diverse people and families in our community. In celebrating Pride Month, we have an opportunity to see and understand our queer students, colleagues, and community members. In honoring the history of Pride, we have a chance to be courageous in making decisions that interrupt inequities for our LGBTQIA community. As WCPSS updates its strategic plan, where skills like respect, empathy, and the 4 Cs are rising as necessary for our graduates, I hope we will be intentional in considering how to build the capacity of adult stakeholders to cultivate these skills in our students. How do I show respect and empathy for folks across difference like gender and sexuality? How can we build critical thinking skills in a way that allows students to be critical of the socio-political context that perpetuates inequities for certain groups of people? How are we being creative and collaborative in interrupting injustices against our most vulnerable student groups? The lack of proclamations tonight sends an implicit message about our commitment to working toward justice for all folks, regardless of gender and sexual orientation. My hope is that the folks seated in power in this room choose to defeat fear by speaking truth to power. I hope we choose to be courageous by sending an explicit message about how we realize these core beliefs in our classrooms and schools, and we clearly demonstrate support for leaders, principals, educators who are working to realize these beliefs every day. Thank you for your time, labor, and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Crystal Behrend.
Hello, my name is Christelle Behrend, and I am the librarian at Nightdale High School. Today is the first public board meeting of June when we celebrate Pride Month. I'm proud to work at a school where we are visible in our efforts to show our students that we are safe and judgment-free. We may not be in session right now at KHS, but our library worked with our GSA club to create an early Pride display for May. Those kids were motivated. They created an amazing 3D flag in the makerspace with all kinds of recycled materials, including, and I'm going to date myself here, VHS film. We even had one of our Knit Wit Lit club members who just learned to knit this year knit one of the colors. And one student did this amazing information board on the anti-trans legislation sweeping our nation state by state. Unfortunately, that board will need to be updated as North Carolina entertains its own HB 755. This display was a collaboration designed and driven by kids who are passionate about their rights and proud of who they are, many who got there after some very bumpy journeys. The thing about being part of the LGBTQ community is that just because they're proud at this moment doesn't mean that they will continue to do so. They will have to make the decision to be seen by every new person they meet. They will be judged by some, called names and discriminated against by others, and disliked sight unseen just for who they are by a few. So yes, Pride Month is an important affirmation to remind our LGBTQ students and staff to continue to be proud of who they are. I'm excited to be volunteering at the first Apex Pride this Saturday, but I was dismayed to hear that the Apex Festival Commission made the decision not to do Drag Story Hour. They reacted out of fear because they've been receiving threats. Since when do we take away from the many because of the few who are allowed to get away with threatening someone? Since when do teachers resign amid threats with no apparent consequence to those making the threats? And since when does our school believe that its entire parent base is made up of families who have a far-right conservative view? I want a school system that I can be proud of, one that stands for Core Belief 5, and one that will stand behind, supporting, and in front of protecting those teachers who are in classrooms making Core Belief 5 come to life. I want to be a proud employee of a public school system that affirms all identities, all students, and all families, without apology or age restrictions. I want to be proud of my school district for taking a stand and putting in writing solid rules and procedures for how to make sure we're following Policy 1710 with regards to our LGBTQ students, so that perceived LGBTQ friendliness is not inconsistent building to building. I want to be proud to work in a district that knows and affirms the value of Pride Month. We cannot let those who threaten us dictate how we operate. We cannot let hate win.
Thank you.
We're not putting our
next-
LGBTQ students
Thank
back
you
in the
very much.
closet.
Our next speaker is Kristen Morrison.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Superintendent Moore. It's very lovely to be here with you this evening, and I would like to start by first thanking you for your leadership. No doubt this last couple of years has been an unprecedented amount of work, both mentally, physically, and I'm just very grateful for the way that you've led us through the pandemic. I'm here tonight regarding the 22-23 and 23-24 academic calendars, and respectfully request that you revisit those calendars to align a teacher workday with election days. I will provide some data to you at the end from the public data that's available. On election days, 73 Wake County schools serve as polling locations. And of these locations, 55 are elementary schools, 13 are middle schools, and 5 are high schools. These schools serve 53,272 students, which is almost 34% of our Wake County student population. On primary election day last month, I discovered at drop-off that my second grader's elementary school was serving as a polling location that day. And his school had obviously taken precautions. The voters were entering through a side entrance straight to the cafeteria to vote. And there were polling election volunteers that were trying to serve as a barrier between those voters and their entrance into the building. However, the students stayed cross paths with the voters as they were getting their meals for lunch, and my anxiety that day was greatly heightened as I imagined these scenarios where it would be so easy for a voter to bypass a volunteer and make their entry into the school building. Across the country, a staggering 38,785 voters entered school buildings last month to vote, Wake County school buildings. This is an alarming security risk to me. It concerned me that day, and a week later, as I watched what unfolded at Robb Elementary School, it was a crushing worry. So today's world is unpredictable, and we have no ability to be immune to such a tragedy unfolding in our own community. One of my friends recounted their experience voting last month in a Wake County school, walking down the hallway alongside of the students who were transitioning between classes to make her way to the library. She noticed no supervision, she didn't have an escort, and this obviously concerned her. The school that she voted at had 464 voters that day, and 1,064 students were exposed to those voters with no security in place, or no obvious security in place. While there are many risks that we can't predict, we do have the ability to mitigate this one, and we can align a teacher workday with election days so that our students can stay out of the buildings and safe with the extra visitors in those school buildings. I compared the published calendars with elections upcoming, and I have some, it looked like there were some observable shifts that could be possible to mitigate these circumstances. I'll pass that off as well. I'm hoping that tonight, if it's not possible to adjust the calendar, that at least raising this involves some conversation about student safety at elections. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Morrow.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and Superintendent Moore and board members. Thanks for letting us come and speak. I did want to speak about safety and also the scholastics in our schools because I think that they are combined, one and the other. I think we definitely have a solution. And to your point, Dr. Martin, when we were talking about how we're going to pay for this, I really do think that there's a way to do this. I think we definitely need, 2 years ago, about this time, you guys had a Zoom session that I was watching from home talking about that was kind of the height of when they were talking about defunding the police. And you discussed the possibility of even removing student resource officers that we had. Just recently, I know, Mr. Haggerty, you were in a conversation saying that we do have some student resource officers in high schools, a few kind of spattered throughout middle schools, but there are none in the elementary school. And I want to say this, it is very commonly known across this country that these people that are criminals that intend to do harm, they do not want a confrontation. They go to the places where they know that they will be able to get away with the violence that they desire to do, which is the very reason why so many of us probably have a home security system in our homes, right? And they even say that just having the sign outside of your house makes you safer, right, than if you don't have the help, because these people do not want to be confronted. I think if it was known that there were student resource officers in every school in Wake County, that you would lessen the chance of there being any chance that our children or our staff is going to be harmed. I'm also going to say this. So many people talk about it being fearful because you're going to have police officers and they're going to be armed. People were saying, you want them to walk around with AR-15s? Absolutely not. There are so many plain clothed people right now that you and I don't even know what they're doing, but they are all around and they have the ability to keep us safe should it be necessary. I think in addition, so many people here are talking about the fact that children are being bullied. There have been studies that are showing that part of that problem is the handheld devices. And I think when we're talking about saving money, I was in a meeting a couple months ago when we were talking about the money that you're needing and potentially having to put the bond on the election this fall. Most of what was talked about in the needs to help with learning loss was talking about IT and digital issues and getting more devices into kids' hands, and then all of the IT, and even the man came and discussed how expensive that is. I think we need to take those handheld devices out of our elementary schools and even the first 2 years of our middle school. We need to go back to textbooks so we can understand when we've lost something so that people can help their children outside of school with things that maybe they didn't understand. And I think having student resource officers is also going to be helpful for bullying in the schools, for children to feel safe in the hallways, and even for teachers to feel safe in the classrooms, because we all know that not every school is a wonderful and easy place to teach. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. This concludes public comment. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept our consent items.
Madam Chair, I move that our consent items be approved.
Second. All right. Thank you, Ms. Kushner and Ms. Johnson-Hostler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? We move on to our action items, which begins with policy, and that is Board Policy 3410, Testing and Assessment Program, first reading. And Dr. Brad McMillan will be joining us.
Good evening, Chair Mahaffey, Superintendent Moore, members of the board. I'm here to present on first reading our revised policy 3140, Testing and Assessment Program. The revisions in here reflect updates made by the North Carolina School Boards Association are intended to align with changes to the state's testing program guidelines. This revised policy was reviewed at the May 31st Policy Committee meeting, and when given final board approval, it will replace the current Policy 3140. So tonight, we request board's approval of this first reading of revised Policy 3140, Testing and Assessment Program. And with that, I'll take any questions that you all may have.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve revisions to Board Policy 3410, Testing and Assessment Program for first reading.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Kushner and Ms. Johnson-Hoffler. Is there any discussion?
I was very grateful for the conversations we had at the Policy Committee meeting. Thank you.
All right. Hearing nothing else, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right. Thank you very much, Dr. McMillan.
Thank you.
We now move on to Board Policy 3432, Professional Learning Communities, first reading. And with us is Ms. Emily Mountford, Senior Director of the Office of Professional Learning.
Good evening. Good to see all of you again. Chair Mahaffey, Superintendent Moore, and members of the board, I'm here to present the first read of our new Policy 3432, Professional Learning Communities. This will be a WCPSS-specific policy, as there is no corresponding North Carolina School Boards Association policy. It will create a new policy that will be given final board approval. It was reviewed at the January 26, 2021 meeting, as well as the May 31, 2022 Policy Committee meeting. We offer one additional change based on committee member comments. The first sentence of the second paragraph, Section A, should read, PLCs may be organized in vertical, subject/level, cross-disciplinary teams, or singletons. Tonight, we request the board's approval for the first reading of the new policy 3432, Professional Learning Communities.
Ms. Kushner?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve new policy 3432, Professional Learning Communities, with the additional language that Ms. Mulford just went over in Section A.
All right. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Dr. Martin.
As I noted in the Policy Committee meeting, I do not support this policy. While I'm a very strong supporter of PLCs, I do feel like this policy is not an effective governing policy. I think it has too much detail that could be described as very prescriptive as opposed to governing. I think a lot of that prescriptive language should be as examples of things that PLCs could do and could go in the supplementary document. But I recognize that was not the majority of the committee's perspective, but that is why I will be voting no on this policy. Like I say, I very strongly support PLCs, but I don't believe this policy meets the standard that we should have.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Ms. Scott.
Thank you. And I just wanted, could you please reread the first sentence of the second paragraph under Section A?
The revision?
The revision, yes.
Sure. PLCs may be organized in vertical, subject/level, cross-disciplinary teams, or singletons.
Thank you. Is singletons a word? Like, is that a word everybody? I mean, we know it, but I honestly had never really heard that role phrased that way until the pandemic, when we were talking about support for singletons. So I was just wondering, is that term something that will be someone will understand if they happen to be reading through this policy?
Yeah, it's a pretty widely used verbiage for any teacher that is the only teacher in their building. And so based on the conversations that we had at the committee meeting, we thought we wanted to add that there. It is reflective already in the guidance documents that are linked in the policy, but we wanted to make sure that we pulled it out and actually put it in the policy for us.
Thank you. And in that same sentence, level, I assume that means grade level. And I just wondered if that should be spelled out as grade level, or if subject/level is also understood. I mean, I know that's just a semantics question, but.
It does reference grade level, and we could add grade if that's what the board feels.
I think grade level might be clearer, just because same subject, or would apply to all others that are not leveled. So if level here is just grade level, that might make sense.
Absolutely.
So could you repeat that edited for us, just so we're sure, Ms.
Absolutely.
Mumford? Thank you.
PLCs may be organized in vertical, subject/grade level, cross-disciplinary teams, or singletons.
Mr. Haggerty.
Yeah, I just want to reinforce Ms. Scott's concerns about the use of the word singleton, and I'll dispute that it's a commonly used term. It might be in school administrative terms, but outside of school administration, I'll bet there are very few parents that understand what that means. And I understand that this policy is more geared toward internal operations, but we have internal rules, procedures, and other documents where that kind of language is appropriate. I just don't know that it's – I shared the same concerns. I wasn't going to mention it. I'm glad Ms. Scott did. And I'd rather have a more plain English definition of what that means in the policy. I don't think that should be dismissed.
Shouldn't we just call them single subject teachers?
That would work fine with me, as opposed to something that rhymes with simpleton.
Okay. I think that's fine. I think you are correct that anybody who works in a school knows what it means, but I don't think that if a parent is reading it, they're going to understand it. So single subject teachers is fine.
Yeah, my response was more of if the school knew what it meant, but I definitely agree with you that parents may not know. So the revision would be single subject.
Mm-hmm. And I'm fine if you put singleton in quotes for the folks that do know the EduSpeak on it, but I think having it in plain language, I know we don't like redundancies, but sometimes they help.
We could, if we reference singletons in the guidance, or we could put single subject and then put in quotes in the guidance singletons, just to make it shorter.
Wonderful. All right, any further discussion or questions for Ms. Mountford? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
All right, thank you. With one objection, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Mountford.
Thank you.
We now move on to Board Policy 4342, Student Searches, first reading. We will be joined by our Senior Director of Security, Russ Smith. Good evening, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Mahaffey, Superintendent Moore, and members of the board. I'm here to present tonight the first reading of our revised Policy 4342, Student Searches. Revisions reflect updates made by staff. It was reviewed by the board's policy committee meeting during the meeting on May 31st, 2022. When given final board approval, it will replace our current policy. At that meeting on May 31st, committee members requested additional language to be added regarding parental notification of suspicionless breathalyzer tests. You will find that additional language highlighted in yellow near the bottom of page 4. Please note that the current policy includes language in Section A in the last sentence, which requires a school administrator to promptly notify the student's parent or guardian of a reasonable suspicion search. Tonight, we request the board's approval of the first reading of revised policy 4342, student searches.
Chairman Mahaffey, I make a motion that we approve for first reading Board Policy 4342 revision, student searches.
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kushner and Mr. Haggerty. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
I just want to thank Mr. Smith and the staff for the revisions to the policy. One of the things that was very important to us was that if you did have a student that came and had enough alcohol that they were triggering a breathalyzer, that they could get home safely and that you wouldn't be putting them out as a risk to themselves or to others. So thank you for those changes. I think they're very good, and I think the parental notification, family notification are good additions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further commentary or questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Our next policy is Board Policy 7503, teleworking, first reading. And we have Dr. A.J. Mutillo.
Good evening, Chairman Mahaffey, Superintendent Moore, members of the board. I'm here to present the first reading of our revised Policy 7503 for teleworking. Revisions reflect updates made by the staff. Should probably clarify that this is our second round of proposed updates. On May 17th, you approved revisions to permit teachers and other school-based employees to telework on unprotected teacher workdays, beginning with the 2022-23 school year. Then in last week's policy committee meeting, we presented additional revisions that would help move this policy from one where employees would only be permitted to telework on emergency situations to one that would provide additional professional flexibility to work remotely in certain situations. These additional options for telework in the proposed revisions include intermittent telework on non-instructional days for 11 and 12-month administrative and clerical staff, discretionary telework, as well as for central services, hybrid and full telework positions. These recommendations were reviewed in detail at last week's May 31st Policy Committee meeting, and when given final board approval, it would replace the current policy. Tonight, we request the board's approval of the first reading of the revised policy 7503 for teleworking.
And Chair Mahaffey, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 7503, teleworking, for first reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for this policy. Is there any discussion? Ms. Carter.
Okay, so I know I always say this, but thank you so much. I really do appreciate your willingness to continue to look at this and look at ways that we can provide what I view as a benefit for our employees. And I also appreciate looking at the different options of employment, the hybrid option, just in full telework. I think it's vital right now, especially with the workforce, how it is across industries, and anything we can do to help support our staff members and encourage them to stay with us and also recruit new staff, I fully support. So thank you so much, you and your team.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you were saying that, Ms. Carter, I saw the arrow from Mr. Cook's presentations fly through my head, so it must be normalizing. Mr. Haggerty.
Thank you. Again, I just echo Ms. Carter's statements. You know the difficulties that we have in teacher and staff recruitment and retention, and anything we can do right now to add another competitive tool, a competitive option to keep our staff here and to attract more staff is just really vital to the health of the district. As I've been talking to people in the district over the last couple months, you do have some that are considering their careers, where they might go. They're looking at offers, in other districts. They're looking at pay, but it's not just pay. Working conditions and working environment are a big part of it. And to be able to, where it's appropriate, offer this as an option, I think will be invaluable to the work that you do. So I'm glad that you brought this policy, and we'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Kushner.
Thank you. And I think we talked about this at the policy committee meeting, and it bears repeating, just the equity across the district. And I know that we need to have our school level leaders in each building, the principals, be able to determine the balance of telework. But I do hope that HR will be giving some guidance so that there is some equity across the system, so that there might be some hesitant leaders out there who may not embrace teleworking. So I hope that there's going to be some proactive work to educate our leaders about the potential for retaining employees and working this into our systems. So it's going to be a leap for some of our leaders, and I think that's understandable, but also given where we are, we should be supporting our employees in utilizing this. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right. Passes. Thank you very much. We'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Chair Mahaffey.
Yes, sir.
I'd move that at this time we move into closed session to consider confidential personnel information protected under GS 143-318.11, A1, A3, and the ever-important A6, to consult with the Board of Education attorney, Mr. Neil Ramey, today, and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in GS 143-318A3 due to current litigation, LP by and through JP and KP versus Wake County Board of Education and others, Eastern District of North Carolina, case number 520 CV 481-BO, and NB versus Wake County Board of Election at the Office of Education, my apologies, at the Office of Administrative Hearings. See, I could get all the numbers right. It's the letters that were throwing me. At 20 Eastern District Court, 3684, and Moqua versus Wake County Board of Education, and Branecki, Wake County Superior Court, 22 CVS 006170. And finally, to consider confidential student information protected under General Statute 115C-402 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20 United States Code 1232G.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right. Thank you, Dr. Martin. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. All right. Thank you. We are in closed session.